All right. Speaking of actual fun, we're going to do BadEmpanada, who is now turning into Good Empanada. Okay. Who did a video specifically on a classic Keemstar Orbiter slop YouTuber by the name of WillyMacShow, and addresses some of his criticisms of me. And I think I assume, considering BadEmpanada is very knowledgeable on Israel-Palestine, and WillyMacShow is not very knowledgeable, I would like to see WillyMac viewers reminding him about the D video he said he was making a while ago. Some odd reason he stopped making it. They're a bit upset. Yeah, I mean, he's now, yeah, WillyMac Slow is now totally a major Destiny Orbiter. He, I mean, dude, I get it. I get it. Why the wouldn't you be? He literally goes and trolls that subreddit. He just peruses Destiny's subreddit to get like an easy 1 million viewed drama slop video. Like, why the wouldn't he be excited at that prospect? That probably makes him like 10 grand. You know what I mean? That's easy money. It's easy money to just not know a single damn thing about Israel-Palestine and just be like make like a Hasan Bad video, you know?
We're going to have a new segment on the stream, which might never happen again, but I'm calling it a new segment. It's going to be called Slop Watch, where whenever a slop YouTuber steps out of their lane and talks about something serious, we fact check them. So we're going to fact check a slop YouTuber who usually talks about like Minecraft streamer drama, but decided to delve in to Israel-Palestine recently out of no reason aside from the fact that they hate Hasan. This is basically it. Like, these people used to make drama videos about gaming YouTubers, but then Hasan came onto the platform. You know, he's on the same platform as the gamers. So now, like, they hate him for getting more viewers than them while talking about things that actually matter. So now, like, in between the videos about, like, the latest, like, scandal of, like, I don't know, Pokimane having an affair with Asmongold's dog or some shit like that. You know, like the gamer World of Warcraft, League of Legends, whatever the fuck. I'm just throwing out words that I don't know what they mean. You now have this guy who has the brain power of like an almond telling us what to think about geopolitics, what to think about genocide. So we're going to check out what WillyMacShow has to tell us. Just to check out the direction of his content. The direction of his content is put someone with lots of followers in the title. There is not a single video on his channel that is not about another YouTuber. And by far the videos that get the most views are the ones about Hasan, so that's why he's making them. So let's check it out. Let's see what he's got to say and let's fact check him for as long as we reasonably can until it becomes so grating that we would prefer not to live anymore. Let's check it out.
Last year, I started documenting Hasan for his blatantly false reporting.
Why do you talk like that? Why do you talk like that? What is this voice, for one? This is not a real person's voice. I thought my video voice was bad. What's this?
Insane meat munching. He made like 20 videos on you. I know. It's can you explain what a grifter is and how you're not one? A grifter is a person that doesn't have any sort of like firmly held convictions or any sort of interest in the subject matter that they're covering. And they're basically simply covering it because the algorithm boosts that sort of commentary. Like, for example, if someone has no interest whatsoever in the ongoing genocide that Israel is engaging in Gaza, right? And the only videos that they've ever actually, the only time they've ever actually afforded their platform to talking about this issue is to specifically farm drama off of a polarizing content creator such as myself to just basically say my reporting on it is bad. And you know, the fact that they have no like real experience in this field whatsoever, and they're simply just like aggregating clip chimps off of you know, a particular subreddit, that would be a perfect demonstration of someone who is a grifter. The reason why I always laugh at the Hasan, you're a grifter allegations is because I have been endlessly consistent on my commentary, on my convictions that I firmly hold on to, and also the fact that not only can not only do my takes stand the test of time fairly well, with some minor exceptions that people seem to make a very big deal about, but that's fine. Grifting to the left is the most idiotic thing that you could possibly do. If I had no real convictions, if I had no real, genuine, personally held political opinions, why the would I grift to the left? It's the most annoying group of people on the planet. Okay. Do you know how many people who also consider themselves to be diehard leftists who hate me? Are you kidding me? It is the most annoying group of people on the planet. Okay. I'm sorry. It's just the truth. There's nothing the left hates more than someone who has an opinion that is a little bit marginally different than theirs. Okay. There is no big ticket donors on the left. Everything on the left has to be grassroots funded by you guys. Obviously, you guys fund this entire broadcast by subscribing, and many of you do, and I'm endlessly grateful for that sort of thing. But the reality of the matter is, there's a reason why. I mean, BadEmpanada is a great example of this. BadEmpanada on me all the time. You know? And it is what it is, but the left is the stupidest group of people to grift to because they are annoying, and it's impossible to get any sort of solidarity amongst the left. Okay. People will say you're not far left enough. Some people will say you're too far left. No such distinctions are usually made on the right. Okay. There is very little right-wing infighting, and when it happens, they pack that shit up quickly. The two most prominent examples of right-wing infighting that have occurred over the course of the past couple of years was when Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder duked it out a little bit for a second. Okay. But it didn't change the dynamic of the audience that much. Steven Crowder cried about the $50 million contract he got from Daily Wire, and he said it was slave labor, which was hilarious. And then the second most prominent example was when Candace Owens was anti-Israel under the Daily Wire wing, while also being anti-Semitic, of course. And Ben Shapiro was like, anti-Semitism is fine, but anti-Israel I can't stand. That kind of feuding is a daily occurrence on the left. People have, an incredible amount of purity that like standards that they themselves do not abide by, that they try to subject others to. So it's a idiotic thing to do. You think I'm a stupid person? Why does grift to the left seems to be working out well for his bank account law? I think that he just is a debate mercenary. He doesn't give a shit. He just wants to be contentious, and he knows that as long as he maintains a liberal posture and backs like the institutional liberalism, he will always be able to maintain some level of an audience. He is not a leftist, though. I don't think Destiny has never really been a leftist. There was like a brief moment where I thought he might be, but he was not. He's just a very annoying liberal who says incredibly reactionary and edgy on a regular basis and will defend it. He's perma stuck on whatever the liberal status quo is, and he'll always defend it. And I think part of the reason why is because if you're going to base your worldview off of like empirical evidence, there's a whole bit of information that's readily available on the liberal side, right? Like, it's great. You can just like go to Wikipedia and just churn out, misunderstand what Wikipedia pages are telling you, and make it seem as though you're, infinitely more knowledgeable on the subject matter than the idiotic right-wingers that you're duking it out with. Because right-wingers not great at debating, and they're not great at understanding reality in general. So I think it's like a very easy way to present yourself as a intellectual giant, an intellectual titan. But overall, he does present a unique part of this space. I will admit that, where he has the energy and the toxicity of a 4chan poll weirdo, like online forums, these people that frequent online forums and like engage in these cynical smear campaigns and stuff like that. But normally those people used to be like Nazis, right? And obviously Destiny himself doesn't care about someone being a neo-Nazi. Like, he'll hang out with them, he'll try to have sex with them, like Lauren Southern. I think he did have sex with her, as far as I understand, according to his ex-wife. And he'll prop their channels up. He'll actually give, Nick Fuentes his phone number to like a bunch of podcasters, so Nick Fuentes can go on the podcast circuit. Like, he'll offer a lifeline to neo-Nazis. He'll collaborate with the likes of Sam Hyde, right? Because he just doesn't have any sort of real ideology. And he'll always be like, oh, I'm just debating them. And his audience, and I think he just like picks up a lot of those audience members who are interested in the blood sport of it all. And maybe it makes him seem like he's de-radicalizing people from their former neo-Nazi ways. But the reality is he's just, keeping that same exact energy, but specifically turning them towards being prominent members of his own personal cult that will still go after very similar targets that the neo-Nazis went after, right? Doesn't defend capitalism? Yes, he does. What? That's neither here nor there, though. Yeah, he's just a guy who's super edgy and a neoliberal, and I think that if the hegemonic attitude towards capitalism swung in the opposite direction somehow overnight magically, which would never happen, of course, he would just be defending that. Anyway, let's continue. I was right about Ukraine. That's right. War is not imminent. Oh, shock. An Israeli airstrike hit the Al Ahli hospital. You were so right. They had a 7,000.
Like, he just puts that in. This is not something that these people like to do. Like, they don't actually have to provide proof or evidence for their claims. They just, point at someone else saying something and insist that it's wrong without being able to explain why. People who consider themselves political commentators do that, so obviously a slop YouTuber is going to do it way more.
1,000 new troops. So what's going to end up happening is that by April, this is going to be done.
Kyiv didn't bomb the hospital, change title.
That's crazy. This is my first time actually encountering the WillyMacShow video now by way of BadEmpanada watching it. And that's amazing that this is what stands for fantastic political commentary that disparages like the 8 to 10 hours that I pour into talking about the subject matter. That is wild. This is the first time I've actually seen a clip of this person's YouTube slop. That's incredible. Like, you apologize and he didn't even include it. I mean, the notion that this will be done by April is you quoting Elon Musk. I'm pretty sure Lamau. I don't even know what that's about. It is pretty funny that I should have sent a bunch of citations for Marx himself on Marx's econ actually involves against the weird pseudo-left debater ideals, and he should have said to me he didn't care because it's not what people debating him say. He doesn't care about truth so much. I don't even know what you're talking about. Hasan never cites his sources. Hasan is out of his depth. Hasan never cites his sources. Hasan only goes on Twitter. These are some of the most common things that you hear from people. And I think it's because people want to seem smart. People want to feel smart. I get it. I understand that. I understand that interest. And this makes people feel like if, I've rubbed them the wrong way, or if they've seen a bunch of negative clips about me, videos like this will give people enough evidence in their minds who are not really paying attention to anything that's going on, that, it gives them ample evidence to be like, yeah, he does suck. I actually did feel that way about him, and now I know exactly why. This guy's just farming, no? If anyone puts any time into you, it's pretty obvious you argue from a good POV and that you're not just arguing out of personal interest and opinion, but actual facts. Yes. I don't think this person has any care or consideration about politics or a well-defined worldview anyway. I think they're just purely in it for the algo.
IDF didn't bomb the hospital? Yes, it did!
Does this guy provide any evidence that it didn't bomb the hospital? No, he doesn't. He just insisted it didn't. Because Hasan said that it did, it must be wrong.
Yes, it did!
I criticize him for being a propagandist, coming to conclusions on breaking news when the story hadn't even been fully reported.
One of the funniest parts about our conversation when this dildo came on the stream was when he didn't even know that, my reasoning originally for why Israel bombed Al Ahli was because, one, Israel had bombed the Al Ahli hospital 2 days prior. Two, Israel had bombed a whole bunch of places, including other hospitals that they've forcibly evacuated at that point. And three, BBC and every other Western outlet had also obviously arrived at that same conclusion early on in the morning. Why else? Why would they not arrive at that conclusion? It makes no sense to be like, oh, this must have been a rocket misfire. And last but not least, of course, once again, in the Al Ahli situation, which they never talk about anymore, by the way, they only bring up Al Ahli if you're a dumbass who doesn't know anything about what has happened so far. And there's plenty of people who don't pay attention. So I think that's the reason why they, watch videos like this. I do find it very funny that these guys will be like, the only time they ever talk about it is remember the last time Hasan said Israel bombed Al Ahli? which, you know, forensic architecture had already debunked time and time again Israel's counter narratives about what was going on. Like what Israel claimed had actually happened, which the media took and immediately ran with. Israel has blown up every hospital since then. Every single one. And not a single peep from these dipshits to be like, oh, I'm sorry that I said Israel never bombed the Al-Ahli hospital or that they would never bomb any hospitals. They bombed every university and every hospital since then. It's so stupid.
You right now is the same thing.
You are somehow coming to incorrect conclusions about something literally a year later. So you don't even have that excuse.
You always do. I'm just saying,
No,
like this,
you
you're
just
doing
stop
it in
saying it's
real
the same thing
time.
you always
The other part about this story that's like really interesting, the dynamic that is really interesting about like a drama slop farmer like WillyMacShow is that the subject matter is me, right? I'm the subject matter of his video. He didn't even have the talking points that he supposedly had like real serious convictions over. He had to go back and watch his YouTube video to debate me on it. And if I'm the subject matter of the video, like my statements on like what I actually meant should be valid, right? But no, of course not. There is no reason to hear what I have to say because there is no real interest in understanding the truth.
You're doing it in real time, bro.
over the course of an 8-hour broadcast, if you look to literally 3
How
moments,
come nobody
you can
else
find,
shut
you can
up
find,
as much as you, dude? That does 8-hour broadcasts.
because no one has the most psychopathic fandom like idiots like you who can sit through every minutia.
Isn't it great? Like, you're just supposed to like look at this and assume that he's right or something. He doesn't actually need to make any arguments. Doesn't need to provide any proof of his claims. You just look at this and it's like, well, does he actually do that at some point? Let's find out. It's like, look at all these things that he just, I'm insisting is sort of self-evidently bad. Because I don't actually know why they're bad. I just sort of have a gut feeling that they're bad. So let me show them to you. Like you saw in the previous segment where I responded to like a clip of Ethan, like a Ethan Klein Zionist compilation. Rather than just showing you the clip and insisting, oh, this is wrong. I told you why it's wrong. This guy shows you a clip and you're just supposed to listen to it. And I guess it's wrong just because he sort of is pointing at it, I guess.
To find a
called
clippable
research.
moment,
It's
to
actually
find a
just called-
clippable
it's
moment
just
to be like,
called
he
basic
sucks, he's
research.
bad. That's
You
the
make
reason,
research
dickhead.
sound bad.
All right.
He followed this up by interviewing a terrorist, eating up propaganda about taking hostages.
Terrorists, right? You can just brand someone as a terrorist if you're this white guy who sounds like he's struggling to speak. You're this guy here. You can just say that someone is a terrorist, providing zero evidence for it. Why?
Probably the best example of a grifter I can imagine. He has no passion for the conflict. He thinks he's debunking you on. Doesn't even have the talking points readily available. Yeah, I wanted to talk to him about Israel-Palestine, but he was like, no, I want you to simply watch my video. I was like, why the would I do that, bro? I'm the person you're talking about. Just tell me what your anger and your frustration is and we can go over it. Which he had to literally go back and which he had to wait, what is this? Relevant?
Hold on, can you
Because
pause
that's
for a
like-
second?
that's such an-
I'm sorry to do it. This guy right here in the top left, the one that they're all
Oh, there he is. He's like hanging out with Destiny and Dan Saltman.
having a great time with, this guy's a killer.
Well, no,
you don't know if he killed anybody.
He probably has
What
never.
do you mean he boards boats?
Yeah, but after they're already taken over, he's not part of like the
Oh,
takeover
I'm sorry,
team.
he's not cool
He's
enough.
hanging out with the hostages, but we don't
Oh,
know
I'm
if
sorry.
He
killed.
also wasn't hanging out with the hostages. That was a moment that was like lost in translation, but like he wasn't hanging out with the hostages at all. And the people were using a clip that was from a totally separate video to be like, oh, look at this clip. Like, here he is hanging out with the hostages. No, he didn't board the boats either. No, he didn't board the boats either. He went on Galaxy, the boat that had already been, that had become a tourism destination in Sana'a. You're wrong. All of this stuff is wrong. Why do people not care about being wrong so frequently? It just doesn't make any sense. The Ansar Allah militants took over a bunch of boats, including the Galaxy one, okay? They boarded the boat. They put the boat in the port in Sana'a. And then they turned it into a tourism destination. So people could just simply pay, I think like $1 or something to go and see the boat, Galaxy Leader. That's it. And Timothy Chalamet, Rashid, okay? You are the biggest liar I've ever seen. It's written all over your face. You are bull. Okay, man.
My bad.
I'm
my
trying
bad.
to be accurate, Dan.
Yeah.
Sorry, my fault.
You're trying to fight
No one dies.
disinformation with disinformation.
No one dies on these things.
No, there's no
nobody's
videos
saying
of him
that.
in like active
Yeah,
combat. It's just him like
nobody's-
touring after it.
يعني الشعب الصيني انا ما قد جلست معاهم ولا بس الصدق يعني قبطان السفينه كان صيني وعجبها الجو.
Like he's saying he hasn't spent much time with Chinese people, but one of the captains, the captain was Chinese, and he did qat with them, and he danced.
Like, this either is a mistranslation because the captain wasn't even Chinese, or he's just flexing. Okay,
Some music with them, and he was vibing. So he
like, I think he saw a clip of another another earlier. It is a mistranslation. He either saw a clip. He's not flexing. He's joking. Oh, okay. I don't know, but he saw an older TikTok. Why is this video relevant at all? You're lying, Hasan. I can read your mind. It's a mistranslation. Qatari Cat, what is he saying there? You also have to remember, like, I can't understand what he's saying. He can't understand what I'm saying. That's why I had Fuad be the translator in this situation. But Willie does nothing. Willie does anything to not confront genocide and heaves his lack of care onto you and everyone else. Is like deliberate placing of oneself to be negatively polarized. Like, who asked these motherfuckers to be political? I hate it. Anyway, but yeah, if you want the actual facts, if you want to know what is the reality, I asked him in the interview if he was a Houthi militant. I still maintain the position that I have every right to interview a Houthi militant or someone who is like a prominent member of the Ansar Allah administration. I think there's journalistic value to doing such a thing. When I thought that he might be a Houthi militant personally, because we saw all the clips and everyone was calling him like jokingly Tim Houthi Chalamet, I was, of course, very excited to do this. Okay. But the interview, in my perspective, at least, once he said he was not, of course, changed, like the dynamic of the interview changed. And every single real news outlet, no matter how right-wing they are, have openly stated that they know that this person is not a militant anyway. Most people would be given props for bagging an interview like this. I know. The New York Times reached out to me to try and get their contact information. Okay? Yes. Other journalists like Jeremy Scahill, Ryan Grimm, and many others were like, that was a fantastic interview. I'm glad that, someone is out there capable of being able to reach out to these people and actually even humanize them. Because why wouldn't I? Anyway, let's continue.
Why is he a terrorist? He's an Arab in Yemen. Why else would he be a terrorist, right? Someone who, by the way, like, what terrorist attack has he committed? What terrorist attack has he committed? I can point to a terrorist attack that Hila Klein has participated in. What terrorist attack did this guy participate in? Could you point to that for us? Which one? What did he do? I'd like to offer, I believe his name is Rashid Al-Khalidi. We will crowdfund a GoFundMe so you can sue whichever one of these people you choose. This guy could be the easy target. There's precedent for this working because, for example, Sacha Baron Cohen's video Bruno, he framed a random Palestinian grocer as like a terrorist, and he ended up having to pay that guy hundreds of millions of dollars in a defamation case, or at least tens of millions. Rashid, my friend from Yemen, you have a chance at a huge payout here, and we will gladly crowdfund you. Pick like the most egregious of them, calling you a terrorist.
I speak Arabic. Rashid didn't say any of that. Your translator speaking another dialect, Levantine, opposed to Rashid's Yemeni dialect. He never said he took caught with the captain or the crew. I don't know what he said. I still don't, to this day, know what he said. But what I do know is I have no reason not to trust him when he says he's not a Houthi, okay? He lives in Yemen. He has every reason to even lie and say he is Houthi in an effort to not get punished by seemingly coming across as he's disparaging the Ansar Allah movement. You know what I mean? What's crazy about it is that he literally has been apprehended by the authorities in Yemen before, like according to his own Twitter account. So it's like ridiculous that people are just like why would he lie? Why would he lie? He has no reason to lie. He lives in Yemen, brother. He can just be like, yeah, I hate Jewish people and I'm Ansar Allah and we're doing this for anti-Semitism. If that was his genuine perspective, he could just say that. Okay, what are you going to do? Cancel him? He's in Yemen. He could be killed tomorrow by an American bomb. Like, that's the point that I don't understand, that people are just like, you should have been debating him. You should have been debate lording him. And it's like, why would I do that? There's a person who is 18 years old at this point and has only known genocide his entire life. Okay, Saudi and UAE backed, America backed genocide. That's all he's known. Americans are in Yemen. No, American bombs directly blow up parts of Yemen, though. They fly over it and, lob rockets into even Sana'a and the ports and every other part of it.
terrorists, and let's get them in court trying to justify that label. I'd love to see that. That would be fantastic.
Propaganda about taking hostages.
He's saying he hasn't spent much time with Chinese people, but one of the captain was Chinese, and he did qat with them, and he danced some music with them, and he was vibing. So he.
This is funny, by the way, because not one of the captains in any of the ships that the Houthis seized in that anti-genocide blockade, by the way, literally a blockade against Western shipping that to put pressure on Western countries and Israel to stop doing genocide. That's what that is. Nonetheless, there was literally no Chinese captain, obviously. How did he talk to a Chinese captain when there is no Chinese captain? What he did is he saw an unrelated video, a TikTok from before this was even happening, of like a ship captain who had docked in Yemen, like doing drugs with Yemenis. A Bulgarian at that, not even a Chinese, because there's no Chinese captains in Yemen. There's no Chinese captains involved in this at all. So he's talking about a TikTok video that he watched, and these guys say like, okay, that's like dispositive evidence that he's a terrorist. Also, even if he had talked to a captain, how would that make him a terrorist? Is terrorism when you speak to someone who was like a crew member of a ship that was seized in an anti-genocide blockade? Just speaking to them makes you a terrorist? Is that how this works? I would love to get this guy on stream to explain to us his logic and also to get him to present to us his evidence.
He likes them, yeah.
So, I mean, what? That's so crazy.
He's saying that they went over the cruise on these.
Is the entire video just like him rehashing a video that he already made, where you're supposed to look at the clips and just assume that he's correct? That whatever he's implying.
Yes, the answer is yes, by the way. For most people, it's like, it's perfectly packaged drama slop. It takes 1 second to lie about a person, especially when there is an overwhelming amount, amount of social conditioning geared in one way. And it takes an hour to break down exactly why this is wrong, while still taking into account the broader audience's personal hangups on the matter. Okay? You could just say, brown kid has a gun, terrorist. I have to now describe how terrorism is a political designation that is ultimately utterly meaningless. It has no legal basis, and that the likes of Nelson Mandela were on the terror watch list until 2008, when I conducted this interview with a person who wasn't even a part of the Ansar Allah movement. But even if he was, it still would have been perfectly valid. The Ansar Allah movement had not even been declared a terror organization, or rather the terrorism organization designation was going to take 30 days by the State Department to actually be implemented. Joe Biden had taken off the Ansar Allah movement from the terrorism designation in the State Department earlier. Okay, how am I going to describe this to people who are just like, nah, I see brown guy, has gun, he's terrorist, he wants to kill white people, he probably has killed white people. It's like when my boomer dad shows me a 15-second Instagram vid that's supposed to completely change my political perspective. It's all on how you package it that gets people riled up. Is insane. And then besides that, Yemen, which is one of the poorest countries on the planet, has literally the highest rate of gun ownership per capita after the United States of America, which is ironic because, you know, you don't really immediately assume when someone is a gun owner they're a white supremacist terrorist, for example.
About this is right, even though we provide zero evidence for you to believe that. Like, the reason why this guy is being called a terrorist by this guy is because he's Arab. That's literally, his criteria to be a terrorist is to be Arab. He could not explain to you what terrorist attack he's engaged in. He couldn't even explain to you what terrorism the Houthis have supposedly engaged in. He could just point to like the anti-genocide blockade, and then if he had to deal with a counter-argument on that, he would flop in 2 minutes because he doesn't fucking know what he's talking about. Honestly, these people are embarrassing. Like, who watches this and is just like, yep, you know, he's clearly owning this guy here by just showing a video without being able to refute a thing.
Ships, and they like win them over with their charm, and they make them hate America and the U.S. government.
That's so funny. Okay, that doesn't probably take much.
Yeah, hilarious. The crew is still held captive, and Hasan continues to...
Yeah, hilarious. I mean, it is. I think it is hilarious. I stand by that for sure. Yeah. First of all, this dude, Rashid, there's no evidence that he actually linked up with any captain whatsoever, especially considering that he's saying the captain is Chinese. There is no Chinese captain. What we found out was that there's an older video that he probably saw that he was talking about where I don't even know if it's from Yemen or not, where they're like, you know, a bunch of captain, I think a Bulgarian captain's like chewing cot or something. Having said that, this part, yeah. I mean, he just laughs at it and goes, "Oh, that's pretty funny." It is. Like, why is anybody supposed to go, "No, I hate that. I can't believe he's laughing about that." Yeah, I think this was the OG video. Yeah, it was this video. Yeah, it's from literally March 27th, 2022. This is the video that they're showing, by the way. They're saying this is the Chinese captain, but I don't know. I don't know if he was Bulgarian or not. I think I don't know if that guy is Bulgarian or not. I think he might be. A majority of the internet believes Hasan is an Arab because he's Muslim and his name is Hasan. Like 2 out of 3 Americans in general could not tell you where Turkey is on a map and just assume it's an Arab country because it sounds Arab to them. Yeah. The Galaxy Leader captain is Bulgarian. He's not Chinese. Sorry. Thank you. He didn't see any Chinese person. He literally said that. The translator added the caught part.
Which crew? Where's the Chinese captain here? Where's the Chinese captain here? Could you point to the Chinese captain for us? Because there is no Chinese captain. Like, we are supposed to believe that stopping ships that are trying to run a blockade to put pressure on countries supporting a genocide, no less, that is terrorism. That is bad. He doesn't need to explain to us why it's bad. He can just point at it because he and his audience are of the same intelligence level. So
yeah, that's the problem. It's like when America does blockades, that's good and based. Like in Cuba, even though the entire world is against it, right? When a nation state that was in the throes of genocide until like literally a couple of years prior, okay, says what Israel is doing in Gaza is a genocide, we have to stop it, and we are going to implement a blockade in the Red Sea in an effort to get Israel to apply further pressure to Israel to stop is genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. That's bad. You can't do that. You should be blown up. Which, by the way, was a demonstrable failure for America. Operation Prosperity Guardian cost billions of dollars, and it didn't actually do shit. It didn't even stop anything. One of the Israeli ports is now completely bankrupt as a direct consequence of this blockade. So yeah, these are guys actually doing something. Okay? These are the people who are literally doing something. What are you doing? Nothing. You're making drama slop videos. Like, what do you guys think America does when they intercept ships? Most of the time, America says we're instituting a blockade and no ships pass. But when some ships do pass, what do you think they do? They intercept the ships. That's exactly what America does as well. They've literally stolen direct oil tankers going between Venezuela and Iran and shit. Like, what are we talking about? Like, what? So that's fine. That's valid. But when another country, God forbid, outside of the sphere of influence of America engages in the same thing, then that's the biggest meanie bobini thing you could do. That is completely unacceptable. You know, your Twitch stream doesn't change nothing until you go on mainstream TV like CNN and MSNBC. What are you saying, dude? You're like, just quit. What? Shut up. It does change things. It changes people's minds, okay? Yeah, U.S. embargo blocks coronavirus aid shipment from Asia. Like, we've done such cruel, unimaginably cruel things to Cuba. And you also have to remember, the mildest Google research would show Yemen has been trading the crews from the ships for their own people being held by the Saudis. Yeah, also, you have to look to like what the reason is. The reason for why we have an embargo on Cuba is because our fascist dictatorship that we backed and offered material support to and offered arms to, Batista's dictatorship, was forcibly overthrown in a revolution in Cuba. Okay? And we never let that go. We were very mad that our sugar plantations were taken away. We were mad that like our mob's tourism destination was taken away. We were mad at the Cuban Revolution. So we punished Cuba and the Cuban population permanently since that very moment. And we've never stopped. Whereas what these guys are doing a good thing. Okay. That's it. Like their purpose, even if you don't agree with their methods. Okay. You very clearly don't think much about the ways in which America does this for bad reasons, okay? But like overall, the goal there is to stop ships from going through the Red Sea. That's it. To just cut it out entirely. There's some level of deterrence that takes place in that process, and that's precisely the reason why America blew up ports and different parts of Yemen in Operation Prosperity Guardian to bring the Ansar Allah administration to heel, to get them to stop intercepting ships, which they never did. So they just basically decided, I guess we failed on this. But the goal there was, very clearly to stop all of these ships from moving through the Red Sea and instead to take the route of the Horn of Africa. Okay, it's not to like, you know, engage in piracy and steal all the goodies from all these ships, or it's not because like they are horny to take hostages or whatever.
It works on them.
And Hasan continues to glorify terrorism by playing their propaganda and passing it off.
These are terrorists and this is their propaganda. These are terrorists and this is that. He doesn't even need to prove his initial claims. He just needs to point. Point. It's true because I said so. Don't expect me to actually make any arguments.
His happy musicals.
Even a music video, they love walking over like the American flag and the Israeli flag side by side. They will always like march on it.
When you said music video, I'm expecting like
you zoomed in on that? Stepping on the American flag and Israeli flag is just sort of self-evidently bad, I guess. You know, these genocidal imperialist nations.
bad example. Chris Brown dancing, you know.
No. They do like they do musicals. They're very musical people.
Praising their leaders, all while hypocritically defending Russia and China's invasion of their neighbors.
You call Crimea? I call it a part of Russian territory. Bitch. That's what I call Crimea. I call it Crimea River. Bite the bullet on the Tim Houthi kid. Why? Why would I ever? If I did something that was f***ed up.
Bite the bullet. What? Like, he doesn't even make his argument. He does not make any sort of argument.
Crimea is a part of Russian territory. It's just true. It is annexed by Russia. And what Ukraine did in that process after it was annexed by Russia, which was very different than Russia's current invasion of Ukraine, which is why it's been an ongoing, massive, inhumane military campaign that is killing thousands of people and has displaced millions of people. Okay, to make this comparison between Crimea and what Russia is doing in Ukraine right now is idiotic, and no one would take you seriously if you were to make that comparison. Okay, what Ukraine did in the aftermath of the Russian annexation of Crimea was to blow up the was to dam the waterways that were going in from Ukraine into Crimea. Okay, to completely shut them off from access to water, their natural water supply. Ukraine also was running with the mentality that Crimea was no longer a part of Ukraine when they did that. Okay, why is this racist pig Hasan still not banned? Because no matter how hard you cry, most normal people understand offering analysis and offering context to global affairs, even if you don't agree with it, is not a bannable offense. Okay, there is a difference between doing that and just being like, I love Russia. I think what Russia is doing is good. I don't. It's very obvious that I don't think what Russia is doing is good. It's very obvious that I don't think what Israel is doing is good either. Okay? You can't just like hope that other people also get brain broken in the same way that you do. This is a clear example of extremism. They aren't even aware that America good is the pillar of their worldview and see any reason anyone says otherwise a lunatic, but are arrogant enough to refuse to listen to reason. Yes. The question I always have for people is like, what do you do in that situation? What have you done in this situation? What have you done to be like, okay, you know, what Israel is doing is unconscionable, it's genocide, it's Nazi shit. What have you done? Okay. I'm not going to sit around and be like, well, you know, all these other people, they're, I would have dealt with this differently. Like how would you deal with it? And as far as like Hasan is pro-Ukrainian and Chinese invasions, like I don't even know what they're talking about with respect to China's invasion. But as far as Ukrainian invasion, I've never been for invading Ukraine. There's never been a moment where I've been pro-invading Ukraine, and every single person has just like gone along with like all the NATO defenders have just so successfully been like, nah, Hasan loves Russia. He has always been on board with Russia invading Ukraine. Is just not true. And spending 3.5 seconds in this broadcast will help you arrive at that conclusion very quickly. Okay? Don't let chat think that Willie Mac and his fans are spending any time thinking about any of these things that we're talking about. They simply do not care about this. I know, but this is important. Yes, I also did literally do a fundraiser for Ukraine as well in the immediate aftermath of Russia's unjustifiable and immoral invasion of Ukraine.
Argument. You notice that, right? He just shows you things and points at them.
By my estimations, I would of course apologize for it. I have time. Yeah, by the way, the Russian government legit called me a homosexual influencer as opposed to the brilliant, brave Russian troops. So, you know, I don't think the Russian government considers me pro-Russia time and time again.
Name one time. He can't because he's never owned up to anything. Hasan continues.
You haven't proven anything. You just show clips and insist that you are correct. This is him doing an ad, of course. Moral consistency. Let's check it out, guys. Wait, talking about Jews?
By some of the most inbred fundamentalist hicks.
No, it's not illegal.
It's so beautiful here. I should go to the old city so I can get my fucking shit pushed in by some of the most inbred fundamentalist hicks.
No, it's not illegal. It's not.
It's just talking about Jews. Would it be wrong? Would this guy think that it was? Oh, he probably.
Wait, no, I'm talking about the ultra-Orthodox settlers. Who would disagree with that? What do you mean? Like, he says, talking about Jews. Nice, dude. Yeah, I say that about Alabama too, dumb. Ethan got mad about that, but he also said that before. Ethan got mad about that? Ethan has said infinitely worse about Orthodox Jews. What the He said they smell bad and shit. That is insane. I didn't even know Ethan said that. Are you serious? Oh my God. In his latest video, he said he's planning on using that clip about you. There ain't no way. Ethan is going to use what you said about the settlers in a hit video in a few days. That is crazy. They're talking about your application of inbred towards ultra conservatives, applying it to just moments when you've mentioned Jews in the same breath. No, there's not. This is not, what the It's been bad. The well goes far deeper than you would want to know. I mean, yeah. It's also kind of crazy that he's planning on doing that, because it's like, didn't he literally film Orthodox Jews in Israel and call them like dirty and smelly and shit? That's crazy. Like, I say that about the Amish too. I say that about right-wing Christian fundamentalists in Alabama too. Hasan said Jews are inbred. He loves saying that. I've got a little compilation going. That's the exact quote from Ethan.
He's probably like a white nationalist. He probably would think it's wrong if you call like guys who fly Confederate flags in the US inbred hicks as well. Moral consistency. Okay, let's check this out. Let's see. The first 3 minutes of the video aren't even original content. It's just him showing clips for like really dumb people to get angry at.
His son's politics really baffles me. He just doesn't seem very consistent. When Russia invaded Ukraine, he constantly justified it by saying Ukraine and its army was full of Nazis. This is the
First of all, the Ukrainian army is like, there are definitely Nazis in the Ukrainian army, but I also always talked about how that is a false justification to invade a country, and the Russian army also has Nazis in it too. If you literally clip one part of my commentary and don't feature the entire breadth of the commentary, yeah, of course. The American army has a load of Nazis, dumbass. That doesn't mean that you could just like nuke Washington, D.C. What the Why the would I like a right-wing capitalist kleptocratic piece of shit like Vladimir Putin? It doesn't make any sense. He what the Anyway.
And Russia pushes. His son acted like every citizen in Ukraine was on the verge of
Did you say that he supports the invasion?
fascism.
The reason why a small amount of nationalist forces gaining prominence is additionally terrifying. It's like Tinder, okay? It can call.
This clip is, or I can already tell, it's not him saying the invasion was justified because of this. It's just him saying, acknowledging that something existed.
Cause a wildfire of nationalism because it's already baked in to the attitudes of the commoner, okay?
Wait. This, he said, wait, dude, I can't, oh my God. Yeah, I'm right. This is me criticizing Vladimir Putin. What is this? What is this dumb saying? Oh my God, this is objectively true. This is a very consistent position that I've held when talking about Hamas as well. Like, there is a reason why reactionary movements that are otherwise nascent will grow in prominence in times when they are seen as the only emancipatory forces. This is precisely what I was talking about. This is me saying Vladimir Putin's unjustifiable invasion of Ukraine will actually develop and grow the nationalist movement. That is the whole point. They're too stupid to understand. And they don't know anything about the conflict either. So they just like literally don't understand. I think he thinks I'm talking about I don't even know why he posted this. This is like when people come in here and they're like, I bet you love the thing that you're actively criticizing right now. Like, what are you talking about? I mean, this is one of my oldest takes from the invasion of Ukraine. Okay, I need to find it. It's like from the day of the invasion where I was like, does anyone have that tweet? Can you send it to me real quick? I just want to show you what I was saying there and what I have been saying and what I will continue to say because it's correct, which is when you invade a country, when Russia invaded Ukraine, they ended up making all of the paramilitary groups that might have had nationalist opinions or might have had neo-Nazi opinions become the #1 defenders of Ukraine. It gave them prominence. It's not only unjustifiable, it's not only unjustifiable to invade Ukraine, it's also ridiculous to claim that you're doing it to purge the country of neo-Nazis, okay, which I never actually believed, okay? But also on top of that, here it is. Every time an imperialist or irredentist power decides to encroach upon a smaller nation, the most right-wing nationalist elements are seen as emancipatory forces willing to do the violence necessary for liberation. A dangerous prospect for Ukraine stuck between the West and Russia. Also, it's laughable to think Russia has any valid liberating claims here. Bombing Western Ukrainian military positions to defend LPR and DPR is just USA-style bull propaganda. Almost as bad as claiming Ukraine started shelling more in Donbass when there's 200,000 troops at the border. This is objectively correct analysis about how right-wing movements grow in prominence when the country is invaded. This is the same in Iran. Okay? This is how Palestinians basically evolved into the Palestinian attitude towards Hamas shifted dramatically over the course of the last 3 decades. This is a very consistent take. It's almost a universal truth. I feel like a lot of people just simply don't understand the things that I'm saying, and they just overall cling on to vibes because I've made them feel stupid at a certain point. So they just like look to someone to be like, yeah, this guy's actually a real idiot. He's actually real hypocritical. And they go, oh, thank God. Thank God someone's out here saying what I've been feeling. You know what I mean? It's so strange that he clipped this objectively correct take to make it seem like I'm actually pro-Russia here. This is the exact opposite of being pro-Russia, dumbass. Every person already has like a predisposition towards nationalist tendencies. So the issue is when you start legitimizing the nationalist guys, boom, all of a sudden the country could turn fascist like that, okay?
He justified Russia annexing Ukraine.
What?
Constantly.
Regardless of whether he wants it or not, he needs it as a buffer state. Exactly. Russia's historic access into the Black Sea.
How was that him justifying that? That was literally just like an explanation of why Russia invaded. And he takes it as like him endorsing it, I guess.
Crimea, that's like...
He just shows clips and you're supposed to take them the way that he's framing them when they don't even say what he's saying at all, for one. And for two, he doesn't actually explain like what is even going on, why you're supposed to think it's bad. Honestly, this video, it's not transformative enough to be considered free use. It's not. Like saying one line and then showing 10 clips of someone else is not transformative. Hasan should copyright strike this 100%. He should just copyright strike this. This would not pass in court for fair use. Hasan should just lawsuit this guy and everyone else who makes videos that are just like 5 minutes of a Hasan clip and then one word of commentary. These people should not be allowed to just make money by taking your clips, compiling them, and saying one sentence every 5 minutes. This is like 3 or 4 times more successful than his usual videos. He should not be allowed to get away with this shit. If you want to make a video criticizing someone, you should at least be expected to like respond to their clips for like at least half the duration that you're playing the clips. Ideally, more than the duration that you're playing the clips, but I think that's a fair standard. This is not that. It's him saying... I've personally witnessed how some of these creators have influenced their audience to believe that you're pro-Russia and then equate it to pro-USSR, and it's kind of insane. They will type in all caps. They will talk about both entities but make no points. This is Red Scare 3.0. He's basically restreaming your content while ruining the context of your words while trying to frame you as a terrorist. It's genuinely insane. Yeah, it is what it is. Let's keep going. One sentence, and then he shows like 10 clips in a row. He's not even actually doing anything with the video. It's not transformative in the slightest. There's not like enough commentary here, enough criticism to qualify as fair use.
Okay?
He justified Russia annexing Ukraine constantly.
Regardless of whether he wants it or not, he needs it as a buffer state. Exactly. Russia's historic access into the Black Sea, Crimea, that's like historically and ethnically all Russian, majority Russian. This also is true. Like, Russia displaced the ethnic majority in the area, the indigenous population in Crimea, under the USSR many years prior to this conversation. And time again, I have talked about the historic relevance of this. Okay? Not only that, but Sevastopol was already loaned to the Russian government. So they already had a military base there at the edge of Crimea. It's its access into the Black Sea. Russia has always used that. So there's a reason why when they went into Crimea and annexed it, there was, it wasn't like Russia's current, what is this, bro? You literally platformed a terrorist. You didn't interview him. You sucked his entire... Yeah, well, your dad in the ass last night too, but I don't see you complaining about that, possibly because he really enjoyed it. He's gay now, okay? Like, how am I supposed to deal with this childish mentality? That person is not a terrorist. You just think he is. That's it. The cutting clips and then adding and then cutting back is so disgustingly deceptive. Yeah, but good luck.
Nazis, everyone's going to be radicalized. But when it comes to a fundamentalist group like Hamas that theoretically would run the country, Hasan doesn't seem to have those same worries. He justifies it by using Republicans as stand-ins for Hamas.
I'm saying that the gay people and the trans people that are living under those conditions in Gaza, right, see Israel as a far larger problem in their existence than they do like Islamic fundamentalism in terms of governance.
That's not even like the same thing. He's talking about like homophobic attitudes in like third world countries, in colonized countries, and he's comparing that to Hasan.
And I'm also again, oh my God, I've never watched a video where I'm so right, and all of these dumbasses are just like primed against me, so they just literally look at this and go, no, yeah, this is great. Like, this guy just straight up put my W's on there? This is like the Fox News article. This is every anti-Hasan video, and I'm not joking. I stopped watching these videos a long time ago because I realized that like me actually responding to them in good faith only allowed them to clip more shit out of context and to like continue running with this narrative, not really realizing that most of these videos are just like things that I'm actually saying that are objectively correct and oftentimes not even related to how they're trying to frame it. Hasan hates inferior cultures, he says.
Mentioning that like the Azov battalion exists at all. In a clip where Hasan didn't actually say that he thought that justified the Russian invasion. This does not make any sense at all.
I've actually said the exact opposite numerous times, by the way. There are a million different instances, including in the clips that he clipped out of context. If we go back in time, now it's so far back, but like if you go back in time, and if you look at the actual VODs of the clips that he clipped from, that he didn't even personally clip, he just got it from, you know, any number of different like pro-Ukrainian, pro-NATO guys who have been using these clips and like recycling them over and over again in bad faith, you will find out that probably right after the context that was cut short, I immediately talk about how it is completely unacceptable that Russia used that as a justification. It is not a correct justification. It is a false justification to invade a country. It's kind of crazy. Check out the Google Doc I sent. They're using this in their campaign. They made a Google Doc that is so insane, brother. Anti-Semitism and terrorist propaganda on Twitch. Statements. The statements made in this document are the author's opinions. They should not be taken as fact. I like that they put a little disclaimer in there because they're like, hey, we're going to be smearing this guy, so please don't sue us. What is this Google Doc, dude? Oh my God. This is insane. Then they give him your email. My email is public. Better or worse in the woke games list? For context, we must go back to the formation of HasanAbi's channel and discuss neo-fusionism. Yeah. Okay. Once again, time and time again, I've talked about how the Azov battalion's existence is not a reasonable, is not a just cause for, is not like a, you know, is not good reason to invade Ukraine. I'm sure that there are plenty of tweets that you can point to for that as well. Okay. I mean, I'm right here. I'm still talking about like Russia's, you know, invalid liberating claims. Like, it's pretty obvious that I'm anti Russian intervention in Ukraine, military intervention in Ukraine, I think, right? I don't know how you arrive at that conclusion. But I guess like if there's enough people that avoid all of my talking points and just like clip it out of context. Where is the can you say it again? I was busy grifting. I mean, there's plenty of things that I've tweeted out. There's plenty of videos that I've covered on like the fact that like Azov Battalion or any other like neo-Nazi military groups that are a part of like the Ukrainian National Guard or a part of the Ukrainian military does not justify Russia's invasion of Ukraine over and over again. I'm pretty sure that someone can key search it on my Twitter and find the many different instances where I've actually talked about that as well. It'd be a shame if people contacted WillyMac's sponsor, Rocket Money, and mention that they're sponsoring anti-Semitic, homophobic, slanderous grifter. I mean, why are you sending me that the libs want me to join Blue Sky? I'm asking for a very specific tweet, and everyone in the chat is just like on their own tip. They're like, hey man, have you thought about joining Blue Sky? It's crazy.
Like, it's just like, this is what I say all the time. These people's strategy is to either point at something and insist that it is by default wrong, or to compare something with something that is obviously different and insist that it's the same.
If we were getting ruthlessly slaughtered by an alien force, I wouldn't give a if someone was homophobic or not. I'd be like, thank you for
Why are you zooming in on this? Like, it's not self-evidently correct. Why are you zooming in on him here? Like, you think that you just got him in like a ownage moment. What's wrong about what he's saying? Can you explain that?
Fighting against the alien force. That seems awesome that you're doing that. I would actually arm up side by side with my fellow homophobic, Republican, rabid Christian fundamentalist sociopaths to try and protect my home. And that's the point.
That's the same thing as the Azov battalion fighting in Ukraine. How does he have these conflicting...
That's not conflicting. That's what I'm saying, because I'm being critical of Russia, Wait, it's not. It's the point. It's the same point. That's why. That's one of many different reasons why I'm anti-Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Oh my God. That's insane. So this entire thing is just because they think I'm pro-Russia? That's it. It's because they think I'm pro-Russia. And then that's it. Like, even when I'm in the process of criticizing Russia, they're like, that's my point, dumbass. I'm anti-Russia. I'm anti-Russia invading Ukraine. Part of that criticism also revolves around Russia's invasion beefing up nationalist movements, people that duked it out, Ukrainians that formerly would fight against the Azov battalion style football hooligans, and paramilitaries on the streets like anarchists, socialists in Ukraine are now fighting side by side with the Azov battalion. Why are they doing that? Because a much graver threat to their existence is the Russian invasion. That's the point. This is so dumb. What is going on? Willie cooked you again? Yes, if you are the dumbest person on the planet and would rather not try to understand what my position is on anything whatsoever and run on like Hasan is bad, then yeah, he did. Yeah, for the dumbest people on the planet, that was another cooking session, which is kind of funny because I'm in the process of explaining to you what my position is, but you don't clearly give a shit. Yes, if you have one singular brain cell, yes, I got owned here, okay? Yeah, this shit goes hard as hell if you're dumb as hell. I get it. Yeah, another example of what I described is and I have used this example as well, Chinese nationalists and communists working together to fight the Japanese invasion, fight against the Japanese fascists. Like, that's the whole point. Now I understand why so many people think I'm, pro-Russia, because they're dumb as I genuinely thought that there was like at least some like real disagreements here. And I didn't realize that it was because people were just getting baited off of like clips that are not only devoid of context, but are once again claiming that I am in support of the exact thing that I'm against. I didn't realize it was just stupid. Maybe I should have watched this video. Damn, now I feel bad. It can't be that every single person and their like supposedly valid criticisms and demands of accountability are coming from like personally them misunderstanding what my position is on the matter. Oh my God. Vosh has the same take on Azov, but his community for some reason thinks you're pro-Russia. Yeah, because I'm anti-NATO and he's pro-NATO. That's why. That's why he couldn't bring any point while you were debating him and he had to rewatch his video to try to find something because the video itself doesn't have any valid points in it either.
Opinions. It makes no sense.
It's not, though, because the Azov battalion in Ukraine is not the only Ukrainian armed group. There's no reason for them to exist. One, the state supports them existing, which is bad. Or two, they have too much power so that the state is too scared to get rid of them, which is also...
I think it's the second thing, but it's not even Azov battalion anymore. I mean, they took the Azov battalion and just like placed it firmly within the ranks of like the Ukrainian National Guard originally, and then and now they're just like a part of the regular armed forces. That's it. And inevitably, that is going to be a major problem for Ukraine. But obviously, that's neither here nor there. That's like completely inconsequential in this moment. Azov is now the 3rd Infantry Battalion. Yeah. Yeah, this is... What is this? This is the tweet? I mean, this is one of the instances. Denazifying Ukraine was Russia's ridiculous propaganda for invading Ukraine and occupying it. So why is it that when Israel makes this ridiculous claim, Westerners are so quick to believe it? You cannot eradicate Hamas by bombing Gaza. Oh, here it is. This is it. Oh, it's the same take. Yeah. I said this day one of the invasion of Ukraine about the denazification narrative. Every time imperialist or irredentist power decides to encroach upon a smaller nation, the most right-wing nationalist elements are seen as emancipatory forces willing to do the violence necessary for liberation, a dangerous prospect for Ukraine stuck between the West and Russia. And it's true. Once again, being a leftist is about being right, but being too early. Okay, if you arrive at the correct position too early, people will yell at you over and over again. And even if they personally decide that, you know, your conclusions were correct and they finally arrive at that position, the hatred that they feel for you is so powerful that still remains. There's hella people right now out there who are like, damn, I actually do agree with, that maybe don't personally say they agree with my position on Palestine, but like they have arrived at that conclusion after a year of genocide. Okay. But because of how I made them feel early on, they still carry on that resentment. And the same thing always happens. The Gamba takes. I said early on, a crypto casino that created a website with the explicit purpose of driving viewership and driving new audience members to their actual crypto casino was going to be devastating. Paired up with the reality that they are not going to hold on to any sort of like serious, rigid guidelines, no terms of service whatsoever, that was going to be a Nazi file. I was right. And many people in XQC's community at the time despised me for it. XQC despised me for it. I'm sure that former fans of XQC now agree with that position. However, their resentment towards me still carries on because I made them feel bad, or their favorite content creator felt bad at the time. So now, even if they personally agree with that original position that I had, they don't go, you know what, maybe this guy was right, I'm going to be charitable to him, in the future. They just still continue hating. It's weird. But I guess it's fine. You know, at the end of the day, as long as people are arriving at the correct conclusions, even if they're late to the game, it's still fine, you know?
Bad. You don't need like a specific armed group for neo-Nazis. In Palestine, Hamas is the armed group. It's the only real armed resistance, aside from other armed groups that you also hate just as much. Ukraine is a country with a real military. Azov is but one unit. So what you do in that situation, if you really want to fight the Nazis, is you just forcibly disband that unit and you take the fighters from it and you distribute them through the rest of the military. Whereas, I don't know if you know this, but Palestine does not have a military. It's not allowed to have one. If Palestine had a military, we would not be having this discussion right now at all. Yeah, I mean, I've never seen anyone say that, like, Azov kills gays. They're probably homophobic, but has anyone ever said,
made the horrific decision to call Palestinians' culture inferior? Hasan rightfully called him out for this.
These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways.
It's terrifying. Like, saying they're inferior, saying they're evil, to justify the death and destruction that befalls them is so horrifying.
Because remember, Hasan would never call another culture inferior. He would never do that.
I don't agree in theocracy at all.
But, like, wouldn't that mean that it would be inferior?
No, I wouldn't say that any culture is inferior to one another. All life must be cherished. Their lives are no different, even if they disagree fundamentally with you.
But if we just go back to last year, Hasan was justifying China's invasion of Tibet for the same reason. Their inferior culture. He says China's imperialism is good because they focus on taking over the
formerly enslaved Tibetan people working alongside the Maoist militias to liberate their own non-autonomous region that has historically been on and off a part of the Chinese empire is not saying that the Tibetan culture is inferior. What the are you talking about? What? Slavery and feudalism is not a fundamental part of Tibetan culture. Okay? That is precisely the reason why it was actually the formerly enslaved Tibetans that fought against their slave masters in the process.
Their neighbors.
Chinese development and Chinese military action is either irredentist in nature, which is different than imperialist, where it's like it's more so expansive in its own.
This is him explaining concepts. Like, do you think Hasan thinks that irredentism is good? What? This guy sees an explanation, he takes it as an endorsement.
Limited area rather than global imperialism, which is done with the express effort with the
Tibet, Taiwan.
Tibet was literally a feudal slave.
Okay, for one, first thing, he was describing the difference between, say, for example, irredentism, which is
like China's actions in Tibet, the Chinese, the Chinese Maoist movement in Tibet is not an instance of irredentism. Okay, what China is currently doing in Tibet, not developing it evenly as opposed to the rest of the Chinese territories, is understandably consequential, and there's much to criticize there. Okay, the current Chinese rulership over Tibet is not exactly great, but none of this is talking about liberating Tibet from the treacherous nature of feudalism. Okay, and the example I used here was actually so good. Not to hype myself up, but it is directly the same as like the American government during the time of slavery engaging in the Civil War. And besides that, it's like if the Southern formerly enslaved people also rose up and actively fought against their slave masters.
Is like, my country has a right to take this state, this smaller country that is on our border or whatever, versus like American-style globe-spanning imperialism, where it's like, we want to essentially control as much as we reasonably can every single country in the world and force them to pursue our own interests. That was what he was talking about in the first place there, explaining the difference between like China and the US as global powers. He takes an explanation first as like an endorsement. So now let's see what the supposed calling Tibetan culture in.
Just threaten to beat them up like they always do. Just show them your massive muscles. What are they going to do? Just threaten to beat them up. And that's what you do when you can't come up with an argument, says HasanAbi tough guy. Dude, how little care or consideration do you have for your own humanity and your own personhood that you are literally making a fake fan account called HasanAbi tough guy and then, creating the account, waiting for the appropriate amount of time so you can actually chat in the chat, and then saying, these guys are all ugly nerds. Don't waste your time. It's about how attractive you are. Like making yourself come across like you're actually a fan, but also letting it slip a little bit. It's such a wild thing to do, bro. This is what I think of you, just so you know. It's giving this. It's giving this. Go jerk off, dude. You're too horny. Exactly my point. Exactly. Keep going. Okay, dude. I'm going to ban you so that you can be happier and healthier person, I hope.
Inferior was
feudal slave mandate, like
so
autonomous zone.
China did them a favor.
That was one. I mean, in America, when I say something like this, people get very upset. We talk about the Dalai Lama saying "suck my tongue" or whatever, but like that's not far from the norm in normal Tibetan existence before the Communist Party came in and
so China unilaterally took over Tibet.
Like
these are their culture. They basically are trying to, homogenize the culture.
In the name of squashing an inferior culture, China killed over 87,000 Tibetans. That's 1.2 million, 1 out of every 6 Tibetans.
So let's talk about this comparison for a second here. I think it should be pretty self-evident. So as Mangold said, that Palestinians deserve to be genocided because they have an inferior culture, because genocide is literally baked into their laws. That's the quote that he said. For one, that's not true. And he explicitly said they have an inferior culture. Straight up. They deserve to be genocided because they have an inferior culture. And the justification that he came up with to justify this idea was that they have genocide baked into their laws. Now, if you can find the genocide law in Palestinian law, in the Palestinian, legal code, please bring it up for us. You're going to have trouble with that. Now, let us talk about Tibet.
I know BadEmpanada loves it when I step away from his videos.
What did Hasan say about Tibet? Tibet was a country that had slavery, serfdom. This was bad. When China invaded Tibet, it abolished slavery and serfdom. This was good. Do you think that slavery and serfdom are like protected cultural characteristics? Is that the argument that you're making here? Is that genuinely what you believe? So would you say that it was genocide when the North attacked the southern US and forced them to abolish slavery? Was that genocide, my friend? I would like to see your answer to that question. Now, perhaps slavery and serfdom was indeed the culture of someone in Tibet. Like a tiny, tiny economic and social elite. But it certainly was not Tibetan culture. Do you think that most people in Tibet owned slaves and had serfs? Obviously, such a system could not possibly exist. Such a system requires a minority to exercise control over a majority who are the slaves and the serfs themselves. So, you compared there someone making up bullshit to justify genocide with someone invoking something that actually really did exist and that really was abolished as a result of the Chinese invasion, which was literal slavery, like a socioeconomic system of oppression. Like the whole video is comparing things that aren't the same and insisting they're the same, apparently. I do not give a shit about preserving the culture of like a tiny slave-owning elite anywhere in the world. Do you? I would hope not. I would hope that you can see the difference in feudal lords in Tibet owning slaves and Asmongold saying that Palestinians believe that in genocide, so they deserve to be genocided. Something which is not true. Asmongold outright said that, Palestinian culture, all Palestinians are inferior. I do not think that saying that slavery is bad and it's good that it was abolished is the same thing as that. By the way, this is the first.
That's crazy, by the way. Like, slavery is not someone's culture, man. What are we talking about? The Tibet take is unacceptable. You can't ignore the forced Hanification of the Tibetan people, same as Xinjiang. Hundreds of thousands of people were forcibly displaced. Tibetans have a right to self-determination. British also used the caste in India as a justification for the empire. No, you're misunderstanding my position. Okay? You're not wrong about Hanification. I have never said that Hanification, just like Russification, was a major L for the USSR. Hanification is on principle a unacceptable thing that the Chinese government does. Okay? This is correct. Your take on that is correct. I agree with you. This is not my position. Okay? I don't agree with that at all. And I think that is part of the ongoing issue. Also, it's hilarious that you said Tibetans have the right to self-determination. British also use the caste as India as justification for the empire. The British literally utilized the caste system and kicked it into high gear. And I know you know this because you yourself are one of my anti-China Indian chatters. I know you know that. Okay? But yes, I don't agree with the Hanification of Tibet, nor do I agree with the Hanification of Xinjiang. Okay. No, this is a very smart chatter. Okay. It's a healthy disagreement that we have in terms of, I guess, like maybe misunderstanding my position on China. British used the caste to also justify their empire. They are liberalizing us. They also used caste at the same time. Yeah, that they are liberalizing us. No, I understand. In terms of the initial movement in Tibet, how do you justify utilizing like actual existing Tibetan groups as armed militias that rose up against slavery? Like, that is not a embedded part of Tibetan culture. I disagree with that. The continued Hanification is unacceptable. These two things can be true at the same time, and they are true. If you are comparing the original abolition of the serfdom in Tibet to what the British Empire did in India, you're wrong. Would you apply this to slaveholding indigenous Americans vis-a-vis the colonization of America? No. Okay. I would, however, use a much better example, which is the one I used in that conversation with Ethan, which is that what China did in that circumstance was not dissimilar to the Civil War, I guess. Yeah, black soldiers in the Union during the Civil War. In what way does China do Hanification and China create autonomous zones that sustain the teaching of Tibetan language and culture aside from religious areas? Come on, dude. Like, this is a thing that China does all the time. It's a way to basically control what aspect of the culture is presented. It's the same thing in Xinjiang as well. It's the effectively neuter, and the justification they use for it is that they don't want any separatist movements to grow as a consequence of that. But I think it's still brutal.
The very first thing off Google.
I don't understand how you could be pro-Palestine and then support Russia and China. Israel's neighbors with Gaza. Does that make what they're doing okay? No, of course not.
Do you think it's okay? Have you ever made a video denouncing it? It seems like instead of actually denouncing it, you just attack people who are against it. I wonder why that is. I wonder why you are so extremely laser focused on that. It's almost like you support the genocide and you're too fucking cowardly to say so.
Oh, of course not. His politics makes no sense. It's constant.
Let's be fair to you. I don't think anything will make sense to you. You're too dumb to understand anything. Let's just be real about that point first. Like, of course it doesn't make sense to you. You think that, like, abolishing slavery...
Yeah, I mean, look, just because something is wrong doesn't mean all wrong things are the same. If Palestine looked anything like Xinjiang, the person responsible for it would get Nobel Peace Prizes for 100 years is a correct take, but that still doesn't mean that I agree with what China did in Xinjiang. China did not civilize Tibet. I'm not using this as a civilizing of Tibet as an argument or a narrative. In 1829, the British passed the Sati Regulation Act in India, which banned the Hindu practice of a widow burning herself alive after her husband died. They utilized this act alongside other legislation passed to justify that they were civilizing India and subjugating all of it until 1947. How is that different than China coming into civilized Tibet? What's different is that England, the British Empire, and India have a very different dynamic than China and Tibet. The former Chinese empires have always considered Tibet and Tibetan leadership that engaged in the act of slavery and serfdom to be perfectly valid as long as they were autonomously a part of China, of the broader Chinese empire. If you make this comparison to what the British Empire's interests were in India, I don't know how to retort that. It is entirely separate. Slavery is not a part of a group's culture, okay? This is precisely the reason why. The continued Chinese-Tibetan existence is very different than, I think, like what we were talking about originally. Unless you personally think that China invaded Tibet and, you know, and basically decided like we're going to use slavery as a justification to kill a bunch of Tibetans, even though the army was directly fighting alongside the Tibetans. And it was a early movement that was initially comprised of Tibetans. I don't know if you know this, but people don't like being enslaved and being relegated to not even a caste system, but just like straight up brutal practices enforced by the Dalai Lama. Yes, this whole debate, funnily enough, always neglects the existence of Tibetan communist revolutionaries who also fought tooth and nail against feudalism and slavery. Phuntsok Wangyal is a major figure in the progressive Tibetan history. The issue was joined in 1956 to 57 when armed Tibetan bands ambushed convoys of the Chinese People's Liberation Army. The uprising received extensive assistance from the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, including military training support camps in Nepal and numerous airlifts. It's kind of funny that people talk about the Tibet thing, by the way, because America gave up on it. Like, America initially was like, oh, we can use Tibet as a way to hit China. This is pretty common. It's textbook CIA. They were like, oh, we'll get the Dalai Lama, we'll pay him, which they did, right, regularly, and hang that over the head of have that as a means of creating popular resistance. And there are always going to be plenty of people for real justifiable reasons that are against Chinese governance. Okay. And then outside of that, there are always going to be people that are directly being funded by the CIA because they want to reinstate the former way of business in Tibet. But even America was like, yeah, we should give up on this. So we are now talking about a right-wing movement that the CIA tried to beef up that even they gave up on.
It's an attack on culture. You think that abolishing slavery is genocide. So yeah, I'd say you're quite confused here. And I think basically anything would confuse you.
Contradicting himself. But
what? Like, it's easy for us to say Tibet slavery wasn't a part of their culture, but then you have slave-owning states literally saying slavery is part of their culture in their effort to justify it. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay? It's like saying that the Israeli culture revolves around the maintenance of an apartheid. That doesn't mean that, like, you can nuke Israel, okay? I don't agree with that. And I think that would be insanely cruel and inhumane. I don't even agree with like the forcible displacement of 750,000 people. Like, what are we talking about? I'm too much of a on that front. Even they literally kidnapped the Panchen Lama so that there will not be another Dalai Lama in Tibet. They also have appointed their own Panchen Lama, who I believe is Han Chinese. The Hanification of Tibet is real. Yes, I think. Wait, no, I thought he was Mongolian. Maybe I'm wrong.
But then you realize that he's America bad all the time. That's it.
Let me explain to you two principles that you should keep with you, coming from a person who's Turkish, okay? When you look at a situation in the Middle East, you look at what the local government is and who the Western forces are. Never align with the Western forces. That's a principle that you could take home with you if you want to actually be moral or if you want to be smart about...
Notice how he can't actually explain to us how this is wrong? Oh, you just say America bad, America bad. Why do you talk like a 12-year-old? Why are we not able to actually engage with what is being said and just show clips Why? You haven't responded to fucking anything this whole video. You just show clips. Again, Hasan, copyright strike this guy. Copyright strike him, please. If he contests it, take him to court, and then YouTube has to abide by whatever the court says. And I think there's a pretty good chance that the court would say that this does not constitute legitimate fair use, because he's not actually making any criticism of what he's saying. He's just saying, here's what he said and showing clips of it. That is not transformative criticism. Just like a rage compilation.
The way you analyze other countries, that's one basic principle that you can take home with you.
This is the sort of slop content that should be banned under YouTube's term and service. It should not be. People should not be allowed to make money off just showing clips of other people and not adding anything to them.
All of a sudden,
people like this should be working in McDonald's, working in the mines, not making tons of money off this shit.
Magically, you are above on your foreign policy analysis. You're going to be better off than 90% of people that look at the situation.
That's not what an analysis is. That's doing the same thing Sneeko does. And Hasan's always
Why can you actually respond to him?
Been this way. He doesn't care.
Wait, why doesn't he? You know what? BadEmpanada raises a good point. Why doesn't he ever actually counter anything I'm saying? It's kind of weird. This is like, how many? This is 8 minutes and 47 seconds in, and there's not a single talking point that he has addressed. He just misunderstands things that I'm saying, assumes that I am, adopting a position that I'm not. Oftentimes, the exact opposite position that I hold, like with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And there's not even a single instance where he just like actually has like a valid counterpoint. If you watch this video and you knew the breadth of my perspective on any number of these different issues, you'd be like, I don't understand what's going on here. If you, on the other hand, watch this and you were like, yeah, I don't really know about this Hasan guy, I kind of don't understand it, maybe you would be like geared towards hating me, I guess. Not trolling, but I don't get the Tibet stance. If you're against imperialism, you should be against Chinese imperialism. Okay, we'll get back to the Tibet issue in a little bit. Okay, please. I have to move on. The answer is a d-orbiter. He has no positions. That's what's so beautiful about this. He can operate as though he's like completely separate from Destiny, even though very clearly he's just like rehashing whatever thing that he saw on the Destiny subreddit.
About principles or being morally consistent.
Do I think that this could be a dangerous precedent? Absolutely. But the right has been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah, but they're wrong. That's the point. The point is they're wrong, and I hate them, and I hate their tactics.
But no one cares about being morally consistent, or no one cares about...
I do. I care about that.
I know
very
you
much.
do, but in the end of the day...
He just wants his side to win at all costs. It's tournament...
Wait, what? That's a debate with Kyle Kalinske about free speech absolutism. And I don't even remember what I'm actually... Like, you can see it. You can see it says free speech absolutism. That clip is like 6 years old. I don't even remember what the position that we're talking about. That is so devoid of context. I don't even know what he's trying to say here. What?
Well, yeah, because his side is actually, a side that actually wants good things, and the Republicans want to institute, like, bad things. I think that's probably why he's saying that. Right? It's fucking obvious, right? You would be sitting there abiding by your principles as Hitler puts you in a camp. Well, no, he wouldn't put you in a camp. You'd be by his side. But you know what I mean. Like, playing by your morals and principles, while people who don't...
You are literally explaining that people tend to care more about a narrative than the actual truth, which is literally what this loser is taking advantage of right now. Yeah, I don't even know... I think that was just like a regular conversation about like the tolerance, the way that like liberals utilize the tolerance paradox the way that Nazis utilize the liberals' tolerance paradox to just, push for a whole bunch of intolerant positions and normalize them. Ironically, that's what he is doing here as well to a certain degree. He's utilizing like liberals' tendencies to be like, well, there's certain positions that I take as truth. There are so many anti-Hasan videos like this. They have their own lore and their own shorthand. A video can just be 100% dog whistling the Reddit post and get 1 million views. Yeah, I know. It's nuts. It's kind of crazy because like he's clip chimping from like 6 fucking years ago so much so that like I don't even know exactly what he's talking about here. Like I've lost the plot on my own commentary. I don't even know what he's disingenuously framing.
Play by them, work to like destroy you. It's probably not a good idea.
They're running straight up terrorist propaganda for the past 10 months.
Mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia. I'll be making fucking dough.
If this segment is like entirely about Rashid, made 5 days ago, this is months after like all of the facts regarding what he actually is, his relation to the Houthis and stuff like that were established. Let's see what he says. Let's see if he digs himself a hole that could possibly result in a big nice payment for our friend in Yemen.
In the pizzeria.
Hasan has been rewriting history when it comes to the Houthi terrorists he did propaganda for. Now he's just...
What makes them terrorists? You never explained to us what terrorism is and why you think they're terrorists.
Some random teenager.
Random Yemeni teenager. The Yemeni kid not connected to the Houthis. And
He is a 19-year-old Yemeni teenager, not from the Houthi tribe, nor from the Houthi organization. This has been established for months at this point. For months.
Not only does it not matter to me if he was or not, it would obviously change the dynamic of the interview if he was. Most people don't know that he isn't a Houthi or have seen his post about respecting Jews. I don't really care. They will just say, oh, he's doing PR.
These are all provable lies. When Hasan initially interviewed the Houthi, it was framed as him being a terrorist.
Bro, are we about to have a Houthi rebel on stream? Yes, brother. What do you mean?
It was framed as him thinking that. And then he was corrected in the middle of the interview when the guy was like, no, actually, I'm just a random guy who...
Yeah. Like that's... Why do people just not watch the original content ever? It's not like this is... It's not like this not like readily available, man. I don't get it. People would much rather just watch like something completely clipped out of context instead of just being like...
Uploaded TikToks.
Excuse me. Of course I'm about to have a... I'm a journalist, okay? This is journalism.
When Hasan asked if he was Houthi, the guy did not answer, instead referring to the Houthis' justification for pirating commercial ships.
Wait, he did. That's just a lie. He straight up did. And not only did he do that, but every single real news outlet that has covered it since then, even Fox News, openly recognizes that he is not a part of the Ansar Allah movement, nor is he a militant. At most, they say he is pro the Houthi government. I don't know if he is allowed to speak on this. I don't know if he's like actually a part of the groups at all, or just like simply...
He said, no, he doesn't actually know. He said, this is just contradicting the clip that you just showed, because he didn't actually know.
TikToker, you know?
Like, you shouldn't show clips that just contradict what you just tried to imply.
You know what I mean? I don't know how to ask that in the best way possible, though.
Yeah, I feel like we can ask it pretty directly. His answer is he's a Yemeni who stands with Palestine.
Hasan will go on to greenlight the...
He's a Yemeni who stands with Palestine, so he did not say that he is a member of the organization or anything. That's your proof that he is? I think we should at least ask a decent defamation lawyer about this.
His mission of attacking civilian commercial ships on behalf of him and his entire chat.
We think
attacking civilian... Look at his fucking face there. That is like wow, that was incredible. Did you see him?
We think the...
Where is it?
I feel like we can ask
his mission of attacking civilian commercial...
Look at like the fake outrage face.
Ships on behalf of him and his entire...
Like the fake outrage face, the fake gestures, the no chin. Like he's the guy from the comic strip, and it's like, where the is your chin? That's this guy.
Chat.
We think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
The whole point of this interview was to make this Houthi soldier seem related.
You know how this guy, he does not see any reason to argue, not just why this guy's a terrorist. He does not see any reason.
Dude, this is like so much of the that I rail against, just packaged, sandwiched into one like 35-minute video. Oh my God, it's everything that I despise. Remember how I always talk about Ben Shapiro? Ben Shapiro is a smart propagandist. He is a evil person in general. Okay, his worldview is awful. But he's much smarter than, like, I don't know, the average right-winger who will openly say the quiet part out loud. How does he do this? He does this by basically pointing to all of the pre-existing oppressive constructs and says, this is common sense and it's good and we should do more of it. That's what he does. And that's precisely the reason why this doesn't have to have any sort of tangible positions on Israel, on Yemen, on Palestine, nothing at all. He could just simply go, that's a terrorist, Hasan loves terrorists, and that's it. No explanation of what terrorism is, no explanation of what these movements are, how they actually evolved into what they are now, how they gained prominence or power. Okay, what their goals are, and people will just eat it up and they'll go, wow, I can't believe this guy that's trying to offer context to all this stuff is actually also bad. He's evil. He's bad and evil. I've already been primed into thinking that everyone here is bad and evil if they are outside of the orbit of American influence. From what I can recall from the interview, the kid was also forgiving towards Emirati Saudi people's desire their government intervention in Yemen. From my perspective, he seemed like a kid who wanted Sunni Shia and honestly just global unity to oppose Israeli crimes. Yeah, I mean, that's I think, as far as I understand, that's like the most common, that's the most common Yemeni position now. But yeah, I think, like, ironically enough, none of this actually even touches on, none of this touches on the actual ideologies, the actual history, anything whatsoever. It's just packaged in a way to attack the person speaking, okay? If you just say, lol, this guy actually is disingenuous because I clipped him out of context over and over again and claimed that he was arguing for certain things when he was arguing against those things, okay? Then, you know, I can just say he's disingenuous and stupid, and people who also are not very knowledgeable on these issues will then just go along with it. Like, there is not a single argument that he has made in any of this. The only argument is basically just him saying Hasan is disingenuous and inconsistent, which is one, I think, of the funniest things you could say about me, because literally you can go back basically 10 years and you will see me advocating for the exact same things back then. That's, I don't know how to get this through people's heads. Like,
reason to argue why it is wrong to blockade ships from countries that are supporting genocide. He does not try to argue, you know, how this guy is linked to that, how the Houthis are terrorists. He does not point to any sort of specific anything. He just feels that it's a default that everyone should agree with. When if you cornered him on this, do you think he could tell you? Like, I'd love to get this guy on stream and say, okay, hands up, show us your hands, no Googling. Explain to us in 5 minutes or less how and why the Houthis are terrorists. Not even that guy, how the Houthis are terrorists. I would love to know that.
He's just like me and you. One of his viewers would point this out and Hasan would tell him to shut up.
Maybe explain why you're trying to get this type of humanizing information from. Okay, shut up, chatter. Come on. It's not like, that's crazy. What does he have to say to dumbass?
Yeah. Why am I humanizing a 19-year-old who's only known genocide his entire life? Okay. Yeah. That's really fucked up, dude.
Masses that consider him to be a terrorist. What does he think about that? Ask me that question. I just banned one of those stupid fuckers in the chat just now.
He says, who are they?
Just dumbasses.
Wow, what an insightful interview. When a viewer offered a real question for Hasan to ask, Hasan...
A real question? What do you mean? That's not a real question. That's someone being a disingenuous asshole. That's someone being a gross little Islamophobic freak. What the That's so crazy. Why humanize a person was the inquiry, was the question. Why humanize a 19-year-old whose only understanding of existence is living under genocide? You only agree with this position if you're a monster, okay? You only agree with this position if you're a monster and that you also have associated this person with whatever false idea that you have of what he represents.
Ignores it, instead asking about food.
Okay, what else do I want to ask? So, like, I mean,
What real question?
Ask him if he would stop going on boats if Israel stops the genocide. I mean, yeah, he's going to say yes, chat.
They've already said that. That's why the blockade is being carried out, to stop the genocide. And for one, he's not even doing that. He's a guy who visited one of the boats because it's a literal tourist attraction that anyone can visit. The organization has straight up said that numerous times.
What are you talking about? Those are like dumbass questions. Has he ever had like Western food?
Great question. Hasan has woven an imaginary personality.
How dare you treat this?
Wait, why would I reassert that same position? Like, does this idiot actually think this dude, who's not even associated with the Ansar Allah administration, is going to say, no, we love taking over ships, we're going to keep doing it? Like, is that what, like, I'm scared? Is that the assumption here? The implication is that, like, I'm afraid that the truth is going to come out? Is that what he thinks?
This guy from Yemen, like a 19-year-old guy from Yemen, how dare you treat him like a human being? How dare you try to have a conversation with another human being rather than treating him like a terrorist because of his nationality and the fact that he's against Israeli genocide?
Like, if you think a 19-year-old from Yemen is in the cut and is like inside of the inner workings of the Ansar Allah movement, I don't know what to tell you. You're a idiot. You know what I mean? It's like interrogating your 19-year-old cousin about what Trump is going to do next. How is he supposed to know? He doesn't know anything. Also, we already have the answer to that question. The Ansar Allah movement has very openly declared that the only reason why they're doing that because of Israel's genocide in Gaza, and that it would 100% immediately stop as soon as the genocide in Gaza stops. They have said it time and time again. I don't know what else to say about this.
How dare you? How dare you? Mr. No Chin here. He's enraged by that. He can't explain to you how and why this guy is a terrorist. He can't even explain to you why the Houthis are terrorists. And for the record, this guy is obviously not even connected to them in any formal manner. But how dare you ask normal questions about himself? They are not to be humanized.
For this guy, where he's not a Houthi, he's not anti-Semitic, he's basically just Anne Frank.
First of all, he wasn't Houthi. I asked him. He was like, I'm not.
This never happened in his interview. He's just lying. When the pirate was
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Wait, what? You showed the clip where he literally said, I'm not a part of any movement. I'm just a Yemeni who wants the genocide to end. What the? You literally showed the clip and then you said, I don't believe him. I'd be careful, Hasan. Looks like there's a conspiracy to slow roll you into a complex of mistakes again. It's kind of funny because like the weirdos in DGG were like also, I think they had him in a Twitter space or something, Rashid. And they were like, are you part of the Ansar Allah movement? Are you a part of the Ansar Allah movement? And apparently he like responded as like, no, I'm not. Or something like, he misunderstood what they were saying and said like, the people of Yemen support the Ansar Allah movement. Of course they're going to say that. That's like their government, okay? Including people who literally had fought in direct combat against the Ansar Allah movement since the blockade was implemented, have said, we're putting down our arms. We are now, one. We're all against the genocide in Gaza, and we are all a part of the same movement. I don't really remember exactly what his response was. Either he said the Houthis are Yemenis, or he said that like the people of Yemen stand with Houthis or something. I don't know. But they misunderstood what he was saying and only used Google Translate to understand what he was talking about. I think he said every Houthi is Yemeni and didn't understand. Yeah, I don't fully remember what it was because I don't keep up with this person at all until it is directly put in front of me. But because most people don't speak Arabic, they just basically said, oh, it's proof. He said he's a Houthi, and they ran with it.
Asked if he was a soldier on
the pirate was so he's a pirate, he's a Houthi terrorist, he's all of these things that you would need to actually prove in court.
Instagram. He replied yes. Now his Instagram was banned, but
oh, here, this is it. Racist Americans from the community of the pro-genocide streamer Destiny asked Rashid al-Haddad, are you a member of Ansar Allah? Rashid al-Haddad's response, no, I am just a Yemeni citizen who stands with Palestine.
لا أنا فقط مواطن يمني أقف مع فلسطين.
No, I am just a Yemeni citizen who stands with Palestine.
What is this? Rashid al-Haddad destroys Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein is a nobody. He's acting like a child. He's speaking nonsense. I swear he does not know anything. He tries to take attention away from what's happening in Palestine. Rashid al-Haddad rejects slanderous anti-Semitism allegations against him. We do not hate the Jews. We respect every Jew Christian who stands with Palestine. We do not confuse them with Zionists. He debunks anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. We all know that America is at the head of Israel. Rashid al-Haddad rejects the terrorist label. He's a civilian. He says it's actually Israel who is terrorist and creates wars. Racist Destiny fan asks Rashid al-Haddad what he thinks about queers for Palestine. We stand with anyone who stands with Palestine, no matter how they identify.
Ask him what he thinks about queers for Palestine.
يقول لك حركة المثليين الجنسيين اللي يدعمون فلسطين كبيرة في الغرب. هل تدعمهم؟
الله يعني أي شخص يقف مع فلسطين يعني كلنا نشكره أيا كان يعني أيا كان جنسيته هذا ما يخصنا شيء الجنسية أهم شيء إنه وقف مع فلسطين فأجره عند الله.
He says anyone who stands with Palestine, we stand with them, no matter how they identify.
So it's kind of crazy that like overall these rabid Diddy G fans, okay, Diddy G fans are just like targeting a random 19-year-old in Yemen and trying to talk to him on Twitter, not as like a fact-finding mission whatsoever, but to like smear him in bad faith. But also he very clearly is like, nah, dog, which is ironic because he literally said this about Jewish people in America as well in our conversation when I asked him about that. The translator has such an American accent. It sounds like me in Quran memorizing practice when I was 8. Yeah. One must first ask the question, why are they even doing this? And I know what the reason is because they want to clip him out of context. And even when they don't get the actual context, even when they don't actually get the thing that they want to get out of it, they still turn around and slander the dude anyway. And they don't even give a fuck about this 19-year-old. The only reason why they're doing it is so that they can grab onto this and be like, Hasan interviewed a terrorist.
We stand with him, and just like that.
بعيدا. ولكن عندما نقول إسرائيل إرهابية أنتم تشاهدوا ما تفعل إسرائيل. هل يحرق طفل عمره لا يتعدى سنتين؟
But when we say Israel is terrorist, you see what Israel does. It burns a child who is not more than 2 years old.
فالشعب اليمني يقول أن يرفعوا الحصار عن فلسطين وأن يذهبوا عنهم بعيدا فقط.
Who would win a rabid fan base trying to get a gotcha or a 19-year-old Yemeni kid? It seems like
هذا ما يريده الشعب اليمني. الشعب اليمني لا يريد الحرب أو الإبادة الجماعية، فقط يريد السلام.
The Yemeni people say about lifting the siege on Palestine and that they should go away from them. This is what the Yemeni people want. The Yemeni people do not want war or genocide. They only want peace.
الجميع يريد السلام، ولكن إسرائيل هي الإرهابية، وهي من تنشئ الحروب، وهي من تفعل وتقتل وتنهب وتسرق وتأكل.
Everyone wants peace, but Israel is the terrorist, and it is the one who creates wars, and it is the one who does.
Okay, I'm done. I just like so ridiculous.
But this was still documented in news articles.
What does it mean if he's a soldier anyway? Let's say that he was a soldier. By the way, Healer Klein said that she was a soldier. So, okay, let's say that he said that he was a soldier. Could you explain how that makes him a terrorist exactly? Is being a Yemeni and being a soldier terrorist?
At the time. And who is the current government?
He's also said he's a civilian. Like, I think that a lot of this also gets lost in translation. He has repeated time and time again that he's a civilian.
Body in Yemen, it's the Houthis. Stop believing.
Oh, so the Houthis are, you recognize the Houthis as a legitimate government of Yemen. Thank you for that. Thank you for taking a firm stand against the American foreign policy line that actually the Saudi-backed, Israeli-backed government is the real government of Yemen. Thank you for your recognition. We appreciate it. Terrorist?
In this live from Hasan.
Many people said, oh, he's hiding it. He's PR trained, which is really funny to say about like some random
Did you look at that guy? Did you PR trained?
Dude who can't even speak English.
You said that. It was because he wouldn't answer the only 2 serious questions you asked.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's very media trained, surprisingly. But okay.
Now, I used to think Hasan just had 0 critical thinking skills, but
wait. Yeah. In that moment, I thought that like the way that he was communicating was much better than how I would expect a random 19-year-old to communicate. If you encountered a random 19-year-old, this doesn't mean that he is like a part of the Houthi PR. Like what? Oh my God. Oh my God.
But the truth is he's doing propaganda.
And I asked him like, what do you think about Jewish people? What if I were to tell you that like Jewish people are leading the anti-Zionist movement in America? And he was like, that's great. I love them. That's awesome. Anyone who's against Israel is my friend.
Even here, Hasan is completely over-embellishing what was...
No, I'm not. That's like almost verbatim. First of all, it's like literally a year ago that I conducted this interview. Okay? A year ago. And nobody gave a They only brought this back again to be like, we need to cancel this man.
Ask him what he thinks about the fact that in America, some of the like leading groups that are pro-Palestine are led by Jewish people who are anti-Israel. How does he feel about that?
He's saying anyone that supports Palestine, we're with.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
That's it.
So I was... Wait. Wow, I really rewrote history there. Hold on. How did I rewrite history there? What?
Critical thinking skills, but the truth is he's doing propaganda.
And I asked him, like, what do you think about Jewish people? What if I were to tell you that, like, Jewish people are leading the anti-Zionist movement in America? And he was like, that's great. I love them. That's awesome. Anyone who's against Israel is my friend.
Even here, Hasan is completely over-embellishing what was said.
Ask him what he thinks about the fact that in America, some of the like leading groups that are pro-Palestine are led by Jewish people who are anti-Israel. How does he feel about that?
He's saying anyone that supports Palestine, we're with.
Hell,
bro, I'm sorry. You have to literally be barely sentient. If you watch that video, if you watch this video on its own, the Willie Mac video, and you go, damn, he really got you there. Like, yeah, it's an interview from 10 months ago. Yeah, I don't remember. The got him is that he didn't say I love them, I guess. Yeah, except he has said it in other circumstances since then. So what do you mean? Yeah, I didn't make the accurate accounting at the time of an interview from 10 months ago. He didn't say he loves them. Here he is saying it here, okay?
نكره اليهود.
Here.
ونحن لا نكره اليهود، نحن نحترم كل يهودي يقف مع فلسطين.
We do not hate the Jews. We respect every Jew who stands with Palestine.
ولكن أريد أن أقول لكم أننا نعلم أن هناك من اليهود والمسيحيين من يقف مع القضية الفلسطينية، ونحن لا نخلطهم بين الصهاينة.
But I want to tell you that we know that there are Jews and Christians who stand with the Palestinian cause, and we do not confuse them with Zionists.
وجميعنا نعلم أن أمريكا هي على رأس إسرائيل.
We all know that America is at the head of Israel.
وأنا أشكر جميع اليهود الذين يقفوا مع فلسطين. أقول لكم استمروا.
I thank all the Jews who stand with Palestine. I tell you to continue.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Okay. How is that, like, contradictory to what Hasan said he said? Any plans to explain?
That's all he said. The same media-trained answer he's been giving Hasan all night. Hasan goes on and compares him to Anne Frank.
He is a person whose only experience is like, it's literally like...
Yeah. Do you not know anything about Yemen? Yemen was subjected to a 10-year long Saudi American-Israeli genocide. He's 19 years old. This guy, when that began, he was a fucking child. He was like 9, 10. So yeah, comparing him to another child who endured genocide, yeah, I would say that is a fair comparison. It's a way fairer comparison than any of the comparisons that you've made here. You compared wanting to abolish slavery to wanting to genocide people for having an inferior culture. I don't know about your capacity to make apt comparisons here.
Like talking to fucking Anne Frank, basically, okay? Being able to talk to Anne Frank in real time.
Now, I don't remember Anne Frank being part of a militia group that boarded commercial vessels and took captive.
So if Anne Frank was a part of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, do you think that it would be invalid? If I had the capacity to talk to someone who participated in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, do you feel like that would be inappropriate? No, the only difference here is that you think brown man bad, brown man terrorist, brown man, even if he's, brown child only experiences genocide, only understanding of the world revolves around being genocided, is still bad. Okay?
You know what? Maybe Anne Frank should have been...
Okay, to be fair, he probably doesn't know what the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was, so... because he's an absolute moron.
Part of a militia group that boarded commercial vessels and took captives. Maybe she should have. I wish she would have. Are you against, blockades on Nazi shipping? Are you against Jewish resistance to Nazi shipping? Do you think that if Anne Frank was a member of a resistance group, she would have been a terrorist? That's the implication that you're making here. And I'm not sure.
That's insane. That's an insane thing to say out loud. Who the would agree with this? Why are people just... People are so stupid, dude. I genuinely thought that there was in the past, I genuinely thought that there was an ideological disagreement between me and my interlocutors and my haters. Now I'm beginning to realize that there is none. Okay? They're just stupid. Not to say that my naysayers who are ideologically minded aren't stupid. They are too. But no, this guy is just, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't understand anything. It is shocking. It is legitimately shocking how stupid Willie Mac is. I almost want to watch the rest of this video, which I suspect BadEmpanada tunes out from because he's like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
About you taking that route, it's a pretty bad one. You might want to backtrack that. Defending people who were murdered by the Nazis by saying, they didn't even take up weapons is implying that if they did, it would have been wrong. You get that, right? These people did. They took up arms against the people who wanted to wipe them out. The Saudis, the Americans, the Israelis. And they grew so strong that as a result of that, they are now able to blockade ships from countries that support...
This is the caliber of Ethan's arguments against you too. They're almost identical. Oh my God.
An ongoing genocide in another country. They don't have to do that. They choose to do it. And good on them for doing so. If only Anne Frank had survived to be able to do something like this.
Shooting missiles at commercial ships that have nothing to do with their stated mission.
Missiles at commercial ships that have nothing to do with their state mission. No connection to Israel. Do you know that basically every single ship, every single country in Europe, the US, Canada, Australia, supports Israel? Out the weapons, trade, everything they could ever want. They get it. Diplomatic support. They get it. So just saying the ship has no connection with Israel specifically is an obvious lie because by proxy, by that, every fucking ship there has a connection to Israel. Could you imagine this guy arguing against...
Yeah, it's going through Israeli ports.
Like a British blockade on Germany in World War II, saying like, oh, but they're attacking ships from like pro-Axis countries as well.
By the way, he's mad at you on IG right now because your platform BadEmpanada. Yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, I know. Wow, Ethan Klein is mad at me. I'm shocked to find out. That's crazy. Please, thank you, guys. Thank you for informing me. So what is different than yesterday or the day prior? He doesn't give a dude, he's been basically rehashing like how pro-Russia I am on a podcast. Like he moved on from Israel and now he's moving down the Hasan drama content farm. He's become no different than WillyMacShow or any number of different like Destiny orbiters that make these like idiotic videos. The day before that, or a couple days before that, he literally said that I was gatekeeping genocide. He's calling you his friend again too. Yeah, it's so disingenuous to call me friend to try and farm sympathy in the process of deliberately trying to get me and everyone around me deplatformed. Like, come on, dude. I don't think that's what friends do. After a year of me being so gracious and so understanding and literally defending Ethan's positions over and over again, not fully knowing the scope of his commentary on this process, but knowing that at a certain point in the past, he had actually said things that were objectively pro-Palestine, objectively pro-Palestinian, hoping that like maybe people were misunderstanding him. Okay? Friend. Yeah, he only uses that. He only deploys friend as a statement to invoke sympathy, to be like, oh, look, I'm the one who's being over by my friend. Like, do people not understand? Stop talking about H3, my man, chill. It's just like so frustrating. Do you think people like, do you just assume that people don't see all the you're doing? Of course they see it. They think you're being crazy because you are. In the same podcast where Hila Klein called Yoav Golan a really good guy, she said Hasan hides his extremist views and that here and there he'll say something really crazy. You may miss it, so you think that he's normal.
That's what I've learned about Hasan over time, is that he doesn't show his full extremist views easily. He kind of lays the ground and then he maneuvers, and here and there he'll prop like something really crazy, but you may miss that, so you kind of think that he's normal.
Well, especially when you go
Just the other day, BB fired a really good guy that a lot of people...
You're excusing people being burned alive and kids being murdered. You're saying Israel does that on the daily. Okay? Now, I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. So are you in favor
Rudy was
of
saying that Palestinians are taught at 2 years old to kill Americans.
That's pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Do we have that one?
Like Kamala,
or the other one?
I could add it.
Yeah, I'm the extremist. Like, that's crazy, man. That's extremism. Also, what do you mean? Every now and then people find out like how extremist he is. Like, Ethan knew that I was the America Deserve 9/11 guy. What the fuck are we talking about? He had the charity to comprehend what I meant when I said that. He literally, we had a podcast together. What the f-? I'm not only honest to a fault, but I'm very stubborn about my positions. Like, I won't let it go. A normal person in this process would have probably dropped a random Yemeni teenager from discourse immediately. Especially with the full understanding that, like, no matter what I say, people are still going to be like, nah, that's a terrorist, dog, and you're a terrorist lover, okay? A person who cares about, does not care about the truth, but cares about, like, optics alone, that wants to, I guess, quote-unquote, grift, would have never talked about that shit. A year later.
And? Good on them, honestly.
Against Israel. But Anne Frank had a diary. This guy had Twitter, so let's read it. Here's him saying you shouldn't be afraid of the Houthi unless you're a Jew. They are very afraid of this title. Here's him.
So one of the things that these people like to do is they like to weaponize the fact that if you are in the Middle East, Jew is synonymous with Israeli. And the reason for that is that the Israelis have made it synonymous. They like that. Israel, Zionists have worked to make Jew synonymous with Israeli all throughout the world, because they want people to believe that, like, for one, to be Jewish is something incredibly special, and for two, to be Jewish means to be a Zionist. So when you are a Yemeni and you have a genocide being conducted against your country for a decade by the Saudis, supported by the US, who is the principal enabler of Israel, and the Israelis themselves. What does Jew mean to you? It means Israeli. It means these people have just supported. So they use that as a synonym with no regard, as anyone else in the same situation would. Just as people in World War II, you know, do you think that American soldiers fighting the Nazis only said Nazi? No, they said German. They called them Krauts. Do you know why that is? Well, because what did they know of Germans, aside from that they were fighting them and they were Nazis? Those American soldiers did not endure themselves at the hands of the Nazis anything akin to what this guy has endured, to what Yemen has endured at the hands of Zionists, at the hands of the Americans and the Israelis. So the best that you have against them is that they do not make a distinction that, to be clear, Israel does not even want them to make. It's just so self-evidently weak.
Where's the poster who he's showing from the subreddit is from a 2-month-old account. Look how many times they've mentioned Hasan. What is this? I don't even know what this is. 1,088 mentions of me is insane. Does anyone have the really Norman Finkelstein? Norman Finkelstein clip where Norman Finkelstein talks about the Houthi flag. Like the Houthi banner that says "A curse upon the Jews," which is something I've criticized over and over again. It's not ever been something that I think is appropriate or apt. That's the other part of this process. They never clipped me talking about that too. No, this isn't. This isn't the clip. No, this isn't the clip. There's another one. No, this is the wrong one. That's not the one. Stop sending me gooning fascism ones, okay? No, and it's not from the podcast. No, I don't. No, not that one. There's a longer one. It's not this one. There's a longer one that was on my subreddit that I watched a while ago, like from a couple days ago. Oh, here. How can you support the Houthis is the question they ask them.
As a Jew, you said that, Norm.
Yeah.
Totally. The Houthi flag says, "God is the greatest, death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews, victory to Islam."
Mm-hmm. Yes,
how do you reconcile this?
I have no problem reconciling it for this very simple reason, and you'll allow me, you can disagree, I have no problem with that. From my first conscious moments in my own life, okay, my parents loathed the Germans. They didn't loathe the Nazis.
Yeah, he's likening it to the bigotry that his Holocaust surviving parents have towards Germans, and he's offering analysis to where this like hateful sentiment comes from.
They loathed, they hated the Germans. In fact, I vividly recall my father once recommended me a book on the Nazi Holocaust, and I asked him, what makes this book special? And he said to me, I liked it that the author didn't talk about Nazis. He talked about Germans. Now, my parents were very decent human beings. The apple did not fall far from the tree. But I could understand that sentiment.
Yeah, Ukrainians with Russians is another example. Absolutely.
The only Jews the Houthis have known are the Israelis. It's a regrettable fact that they don't know, have never experienced any other kinds of Jews. I remember I once asked my mother, just out of curiosity, did you ever come into contact with a German who was decent? And she said to me, she thought hard, and she said, I remember one German soldier, he had a kind of guilty look on his face. That was all she could remember. One. So it doesn't surprise me that she loathed all Germans. Do I wish the Houthis were more discriminating in their slogans? Of course I wish it. But do I understand where it comes from? Yes. And will that slogan of theirs, color my appreciation of the fact that alone among the world's peoples, they are resorting to armed force to stop the genocide in Gaza? I have to ask myself the question, how would my parents have felt if this ragtag army happened to be situated on a point in the world's map where they could inflect the outcome of the final solution? And these people, this ragtag people, hailing back to the Middle Ages, they were investing all of their physical resources and moral energy to stopping the extermination. How would my parents react? Would they ask, what are their political slogans? I don't think so. That's my honest reaction. I'm not trying to be rhetorical with you. You asked me a concrete question, that's how I reasoned it through.
There's a whole study being made here, but always the debate always ends with a slogan. The Houthi slogan called Al-Sarqa, the Scream Hussein Badruddin al-Houthi movement founder, directly argued twofold that the slogan is both derived from the Quranic scripture and is a direct response to the events of 2002. That is West Bank violence, Afghanistan war, and the U.S. saber rattling against Iraq. There's a whole study to be made here, but as always, the debate always ends with slogan, Matt, because it is. It is. But I also try to explain to Americans that that the way that you try to understand how this kind of perspective, how people arrive at these kinds of conclusions is also important. Okay, anti-Semitism is completely unacceptable. Okay, 100%. And I have criticized the Houthi slogan in general, but my criticisms of the Houthi slogan do not factor in to what they are doing in the Red Sea. Okay, it bears no basis. Again, the leader of the Houthis uttered a slogan during the Second Intifada when he watched a famous video of a Palestinian child dying in front of his father. Like most people know nothing and don't care about contextualizing anything. Of course, it is anti-Semitic, but contextualizing it matters. Yeah, people I think it's like Nicholas Fuentes. You know what I mean? Like they think that they got a copy of the Elders of Zion and ran along with it. And it's really interesting because that is such Western focused propaganda, specifically because and this is something that I've criticized time and time again with the Israeli president Isaac Herzog. If you remember, he would come out on a weekly basis to be like, look, we found this copy of Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf on this baby's crib. It's a terror baby. And it's like, dog, that is so obviously a Western focused media op in that situation. Like, for a Palestinian to arrive at anti-Semitic opinions, okay, they don't need to read Mein Kampf, okay? They don't need to read Mein Kampf in English, okay? They just see a Star of David on the side of the F-15 that bombs the school, and they're like, oh my God, I hate whoever is doing this to me, and the people that are doing this to me are always falsely saying they're doing this for Judaism. That's it. Yeah. The Ansar Allah movement is mad that Jews run Hollywood. That's basically what you're saying.
A Yemeni thinks that Jews are Israelis. A Yemeni who probably has no idea that there are Jews who don't live in Israel and don't want to live in Israel associates the country that claims incessantly that it is a representative of the Jewish people, that is made up of majority Jews who go and mass.
This is also at the heart of why I stress the importance of separating anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Do you understand? Because that is one of the most awful things that Israel does in its endless bloody warfare, its endless campaign, its military occupation, its sovereignty that it exercises illegally over millions of Palestinians. The fact that they consistently say they're doing this for Judaism is gross and disgusting. It is no different than ISIS saying their actions are somehow for Islam. Okay, but Americans don't think about it in the same way. They can't comprehend it because one is a state, the other is an anti-state militia movement. So they just they don't understand it. It's literally if prominent Muslims and Christians alike were saying no, ISIS actually does, ISIS actually is real Islam, and it's good that they're doing that. That's what it feels like whenever I hear people who are pro-Israel regularly repeat that like Israel is doing this stuff for Jewish people. And yes, Americans are dumb. So they think Israel is doing this for Jewish people and that ISIS is doing it for Islam or was doing it for Islam.
Massacre people in all of its neighboring countries in the name of what they say is Judaism and Jewishness. You're surprised that that guy would equate Jew with Israeli, Jew with Zionist? You blame him for that, but not the people who made that happen? That's all there is to say about that. It's pretty self-evidently absurd, and imagine this fucking moron trying to argue against it. I could not imagine him trying to argue against anything, honestly.
Be afraid of the Houthi unless you're a Jew. They are very afraid of this title. Here's him insulting his enemies by calling them son of a Jew. He would post pictures on the
That is a lyric to a song, I'm pretty sure.
pirated ship saying ready for sacrifice, longing for martyrdom.
Okay. Longing for martyrdom? I've never heard anyone pronounce that word that way in my life. Martyrdom. What, he wants to become like a Rick and Morty character? Is that's the only way that makes any sense, my friend. I love you. Like, it's obvious how out of your depth you are, but the fact that you can't even pronounce the word martyr.
Pictures on the pirated ship saying ready for sacrifice.
What, ready for like, can you not imagine yourself? You can't imagine yourself, someone being willing to fight for something bigger than themselves, can you? All that you can imagine is fighting for like the destruction of the social order so that people are driven to work for Grubhub and deliver you Big Macs for cheaper than they did before. You literally cannot believe that someone would say, yeah, I'm ready to sacrifice myself to fight for a cause bigger than mine, like, you know, against the fucking genocide. To you, this is like self-evidently bad. To a sane human, it is the opposite.
For martyrdom. Just like Anne Frank, he actually invited Hassan to join the Houthi in operations of Israeli ships. This guy...
Like, again, he's implying that if Anne Frank and her family...
It's pretty funny, like, he's posting One Piece memes, dog. I don't think he's being serious. Like, I don't think he's actually doing an international call to arms.
Had engaged in armed resistance, it would have been okay for the Nazis to kill them. They would have been bad people. They would have been terrorists. Yeah, because that's the only distinction that he's not actually trying to make a distinction between them as people, between what they have experienced. He's rather just appealing to the fact that Anne Frank did not pick up a gun. That's the only argument that he's made. And that argument takes you to a pretty fucking dark place.
Posted an illustration of what he described to be a Zionist impaled on his stake, saying the executions we will carry out on all Zionists.
Okay, and what is a Zionist to this guy especially? A Zionist is someone who is currently fucking genociding people in Palestine. What if he said this is the execution that we'll carry out on all Nazis? Would that be wrong? Would that be bad? I mean, no, you would think that's... I'm sorry.
The Anne Frank mention being like prominently dunked on is so crazy because it literally implies that like Anne Frank is not supposed to hate the Nazis or even fight against them. And if she had actually taken up arms against the Nazis, that she would somehow be bad and that I guess somehow the Holocaust would be appropriate in that moment. You can only arrive at that conclusion if you are a Nazi yourself.
Yeah, you would think you're a Nazi. You would think that's fucking bad. You would talk about how it's anti-white racism. You talk about how cracker is.
This guy is anti-Semitic. The Houthi flag states "Death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews." And to
I already explained precisely why that is the case. How dare they? How dare they hate Israel and the USA? How dare they hate the people who have done everything possible to make them hate them?
Defends him, saying he's not anti-Semitic, he's just anti-Zionist.
He made a post saying he wants to kill all Zionists and posted a picture of a Jewish person being spiked.
These people are so fucking dumb. Could you imagine this idiot attempting to speak to me live?
I don't think that's what he... What? Yeah, I don't know. Also, I don't even give a shit. This is why this entire conversation is fucking idiotic. It's not a Jewish person. He said, why am I held accountable for some random fucking 19-year-old in Yemen's tweets? What is happening? How many steps removed are we from this situation? How is this the conversation that you want to have right now? I fucking despise all of you, dude. Yeah. Now I got some time. But at the time when they were mad at me about this, it was like this is a 10-month-old interview. And you guys are trying to make me do accountability HR for a dude in Yemen who could be killed at any moment from American bombings.
I mean, precisely. That's really the crux of it, isn't it? This guy is making videos, desperately trying to get views, while sponsored by like personal finance scams, just posting Hasan clips and offering no substantial criticism, no refutation, not even an explanation for what he's trying to imply. While a genocide is happening, that is what he's doing. That is like the level of his engagement with the world. That is what he cares about. Probably the reason why he's so angry about this is just because it perfectly describes him. This part right here. That is you. This is you, my man. He's talking about you.
Also, yeah, they were trying to pop this shit off during peak election season and try to get you banned. Yeah. There was a part that he's just like clipped out of context, I think. And then he goes, he's about to justify by saying Zionist.
Why am I held accountable for some random fucking 19-year-old in Yemen's tweets? What is happening? How?
Willie made a video about you, then needed time to prep his arguments against you, finally said his argument and got flustered. He had to defend the video he couldn't recall points from. No backbone, no moral convictions, just a drama cum rag channel. Yeah, but I think there's a lot of really stupid people out there, so there's definitely an audience for this. Oh,
how many sold?
Speak to me live.
I don't think that's what he. What? Yeah, I don't know. Also, I don't even give a shit. This is why this entire conversation is fucking idiot.
What is this crazy thing? What do you? I don't know what he cut out of this. I don't remember. I've talked about these issues so much.
It's not a Jewish person. He said, "This is. I think if we're. Why am I held accountable for this situation?"
Trying
I'm
to
talking
get
about like
Hasan clips and offering no substantial criticism, no refutation, not even an explanation for what he's trying to imply. While a genocide is happening, that is what he's doing. That is like the level of his engagement with the world. That is what he cares about. Probably the reason why he's so angry about this is just because it perfectly describes him. This part right here. That is you. This is you, my man. He's talking about you. You're desperately trying to spin some clips of Hasan in like any which way and not even trying to explain what you find wrong with them in any sort of detail. Like not in one case have you ever actually directly dealt with it with one of them. And people are being massacred right now. Children are being blown to smithereens. And this is what you're talking about. How much you like disagree with someone for reasons that you cannot explain, who is against all of that. It is so self-evidently absurd and stupid.
I do. I really do. I hate all of you.
You aren't responsible for his tweets, but you're...
I'm happy that like there's at least one other person on YouTube that is looking at all of this and going with like some level of audience that's going like, what the are you guys talking about? Like it is truly shocking. Like sometimes I do feel like in the sea of madness that I encounter online where I'm like, am I crazy? Like these guys want to disingenuously frame shit and actively try to work to get me deplatformed because of the things that I say about Israel. And in an effort to do so, they will go to any lengths. Like they'll doctor footage, they'll clip out of context, they'll mass email advertisers and mass email journalists to try to get them to write news stories with their framing. Everything is 10 seconds long. And the things in the subject matter that we're covering, the subject matter that I'm covering is dense. That's the other part of this is like the subject matter that I'm covering is not only dense, but it also requires a tremendous amount of nuance to sift through. And it's insane that like people think that a 10-second clip is enough for them to understand any number of different things here.
What's wrong with this tweet? How can you argue he's not part of the Houthi? Because he posted a video about ships being sunk by the Houthis and said, to every Zionist, I will put this into your stomach. This is for you. This is evidence of him being a Houthi. Not that it would be bad if he was, but I would love for this to be taken to court and for him to be like, Your Honor, he posted a tweet saying that he wants to shoot Zionists. I rest my case. He's a formal member of the Houthi organization.
Constantly playing defense for this guy's anti-Semitism. I want to take a moment and talk about the word Zionist. All it means is someone who thinks Israel has the right to exist, which is...
And all that Nazi means is someone who thinks that Germany has the right to exist as a sovereign Aryan state, right? That's all that it means, no?
90% of Jewish people. Now, Hasan,
this is 90%?
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, there it is. There's... Finally, he makes a argument. Oh, my God. 14 minutes in, and he finally makes, like, at least one thing that we can look at as like new information that isn't just like a clip out of context that he is massaging the narrative deeply on, oftentimes directly implying the opposite of the argument that I'm making, as a matter of fact. There it is. The only argument he has is actually when someone says Zionist, they mean all Jewish people because 90% of Jewish people are Zionists. Oh, what a stupid argument, dude. Not only is it incorrect. Wait, he says Israeli Jews?
Percent of Israeli Jews. That was not 90% of Jews. It was 90% of Israeli. He just equated all Jews with Israeli.
What? Wait. 90% of Israeli Jews are Zionists? Yeah. That's not, okay. Oh, that's funny. Yes, we know that 10% of Israeli Jews are anti-Zionist. They're all in here at the HasanAbi broadcast. We know them. We know them by name.
Israelis, did you see that headline? 90% of Israeli Jews. So he just did the thing where you equate Israeli with Jewish. Incredible. And isn't it interesting how apparently Israel should be allowed to have a state at the expense of Palestinians on stolen Palestinian land from which they expelled 800,000 Palestinians and have massacred hundreds.
Bro, what's crazy about this argument is that, first of all, that doesn't fucking mean anything. Okay? Yeah, 90% of Americans love America. I'm willing to bet that many of them don't like chattel slavery, 13% of the population right off the jump in the United States of America is black. Doesn't mean that they like chattel slavery, okay? I suspect. Relevant, not pro. Yeah, the vast majority of Israeli Jews said that the idea of Zionism is still relevant. If you look at not only the internal contradictions between Israeli society and what the Israeli government is doing, I mean, they have massive protests because they don't even, while they also don't necessarily have that big of a issue with like Israel's genocide in Gaza, even then they're like, but stop killing our family members is a pretty big talking point, okay? So like in this process, the notion of Zionism is such a vague generalization that everyone just adopts their own personal definition for it. It's very stupid.
Hundreds of thousands more. Just because they're Jewish and they say they should have it. That's the logic of this guy here. It's the appeal to Jewishness fallacy. If a sufficient majority of Jews want something, that's it. You don't have to make any other argument. Done. Okay, this is taking away. There's no way I'm watching 35 minutes of this guy making a statement confidently, showing a bunch of clips that are barely even related to that statement, providing no explanation for what he thinks was wrong in that clip, and then just moving on as if he's proven his point. It's just going to be the same throughout the video. I've watched way too much of it already, but I mean, yeah. This has been your Slop Watch, and I give this slop YouTuber a 0 out of 10. At no point did he make a coherent argument. At no point did he provide any evidence for his beliefs. It is so bad that...
Wait, that is 90% status Jewish Israelis? Yes. And even for them, Zionism means something entirely different for many. However, there are large majorities of Jewish Israelis who are in agreement with the military campaign in Gaza. That has been a consistent attitude. They poll it. It's not like a hidden secret. I am diametrically opposed to that, and I think that that is wrong. And I also personally don't think that that has anything to do with Judaism whatsoever. That's it. I think it's ridiculous to claim that all Jews actually love that shit, and it's actually unimaginably anti-Semitic, according to the IHRA definitions too, by the way.
Legitimately, if you took this to court for a violation of fair use principles, it would not pass. It would not pass the fair use test.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Good video, though. This guy says slavery was apolitical, by the way. Wait, what? Ran away? Okay.